Right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Please find your seat. Let's get started. Okay, the City Council is reconvening from closed session, and to report, we have by a 5-0 vote, the City Council authorized and directed the City Attorney's Office to defend the case of Prasad et al. Versus City of Elk Grove et al., Superior Court case number 34-2019-00253468. That being the case, we're going to adjourn the special meeting of the City Council and call to order the regular City Council meeting on Wednesday, April the 24th at 6:06 p.m. Mr. Clerk, if you can read the Metro replay schedule.
Thank you, Mayor. This meeting of the Elk Grove City Council will be replayed on Metro Cable Channel 14 on Friday, April 26th at 1 p.m. and Thursday, May 2nd at 6 p.m. It is being closed caption will be webcast at sacmetrocable.tv. City Council meeting videos are also archived on the city's website at elkgrovecity.org. For members of the audience who may have personal electronic devices, please place them on silent mode during the meeting. The Elk Grove City Council welcomes, appreciates, and encourages participation in the City Council meeting. City Council requests that you limit your presentation to 3 minutes per person so that all present will have time to participate. City Council reserves the right to reasonably limit the total time for public comment on any particular noticed agenda item as it may deem necessary. If you wish to address the Council during the meeting, please complete one of the speaker cards, the blue cards, which can be found at the back of the room and provided to the Assistant City Clerk prior to consideration of the agenda item. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, roll call, please.
For the roll call, Councilmember Wynn. Here. Councilmember Detrick.
Here.
Councilmember Suen.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hume.
Here.
And Mayor Lee.
I am here. And next item is Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to invite a longstanding VIP, Helen, to come on up and lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
Okay, at the beginning of every regular City Council meeting, the Council would like to invite members of the public to join us in a moment of silence, please. Thank you much. And approval of agenda.
Second.
Got a motion, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention? Next item.
We have no items under Section 3 of the closed session, which will take us directly to Section 4, our presentations and announcements, starting with item 4.1, which is a proclamation recognizing National Volunteer Week.
So can you get all the VIPs to join me up front? You know, the mayor asked me if I would present this tonight, and I look at this as an honor because when I first got on the council, almost 11 years ago, is when we first started the tradition of recognizing the VIPs. And there's been some of you that have been here the whole time, some of them have come and gone, but what you guys do day in, day out for the city of Elk Grove, for the city council, and for the police department and the citizens as a whole is a phenomenal task. And I want to read this because it gives some of the statistics. As being a senior gentleman myself, I need my glasses. So we have a proclamation for National Volunteer Week, April 7th through the 13th, 2019. A special recognition to volunteers in police services. National Volunteer Week was established in 1974 with a presidential executive order and has continued with every sitting U.S. president issuing a proclamation each year urging Americans to give their time to community outreach organizations. And volunteerism historically reflects the highest value of our democratic society, and that regardless of the situation, station, age, race, creed, all may volunteer and thus reap the rich rewards that come from giving aid to others while improving one's own skills and widening one's horizons. And the Elk Grove Police Department's volunteer and police services are a valued team of trained citizen volunteers who have been assisting the Elk Grove Police Department since 2006. And in 2018, volunteers and police donated a total of 10,735 hours of service, documented 435 crime reports, removed 1,618 illegally posted signs, issued 345 disabled parking enforcement citations, led 12 police department tours, and provided 3,045 security vacation checks. That's a lot of time. The volunteers and police services are celebrating 25 years of serving the Elk Grove community, having worked in conjunction with local law enforcement since 1994. And the volunteers and police services have donated over 223,549 hours of service since 1994, which translates to over $5 million in savings to the city of Elk Grove. Not bad. Now, therefore, be resolved that the City Council of the City of Elk Grove hereby proclaims this week of April 7th through April 13th, 2019 as National Volunteer Week and pays special tribute to the dedicated service and support of the volunteers and police services. Signed by the entire council this 24th day of April 2019. So do we get to call you the $5 million VIPs now? Who's going to accept the award? See if we can get a shot and get everybody in here. You know what, let us listen to it. I'll get behind you. You guys are more important. So where's the ATM I can put this in?
All right, next item.
Take us on to item 4.2, which are presentations to recipients of the Mayor's Volunteer Awards.
Excellent. In a little bit, I'm going to invite the entire City Council to come on down and join me in the presentation of these awards. But I have a few remarks that I wanted to offer. You know, one of the things that I feel that is a great honor to me as a mayor is to be able to recognize Elk Grove residents who volunteer their time and talent to make Elk Grove a better place to call home. You know, certainly for the VIPs and their dedication and their commitment to improving our community. And the countless hours in which they give to the community, which translate to dollar values that has been saved by the city. Our annual Mayor's Volunteer Award are open to individuals, groups, businesses, agencies, and organizations whose volunteer activities directly benefit the community. We recognize residents in 6 different categories. With so many deserving nominations submitted for this program each year, it's difficult to choose our winners. But this year, the following individuals shined just a little bit brighter than the others. So when I call your name, please approach the podium and feel free to provide a few remarks. So council, if you would join me, let's go on down. All right. Drum roll. In the category, yeah, there you go. In the category of residents, neighborhoods, and community groups, the winner is Marlene Strand. Marlene, where are you? Come on up. So I'm going to make you stand here and embarrass you a little bit since you're the winner. So Marlene has been volunteering since the 1970s. She's began volunteering as Pleasant Grove Elementary when her first child entered school, and then Dillard Elementary School. When there was no cafeteria, Marlene would bring hot dogs and hamburger lunches to the classroom as a special treat. She was a Rabbit project leader for the Wilton 4-H Club, 1974 to 1987, and a Rabbit resource leader for Sacramento County. She has supported the Sacramento River City Food Bank for the past 30 years, and contributes to her church, and is still active in the Germans from Russian Club. Last but not least, she has volunteered for Project Ride for over 2 decades. Can you believe that? That's amazing. Would you like to say something?
Thank you very much. all of the people that voted for me, I was not expecting this.
Well, I think that's the reason why you're the winner, because you do it because you believe in the community. And I just feel so blessed to live in a city where we have such dedicated volunteers. So this is your beautiful award. Here you go. It's still a nice photo. Congratulations. Thank you so much. In the category of social and community services, the winner is Michelle Anderson. Michelle, where are you? Come on up. And by the way, Marlene Strand was nominated by many that are in the community. It got to the point where it was so overwhelming. We're like, well, she's got to win something. She's certainly well known by everyone. Michelle Anderson was nominated by Josh Anderson. Michelle is the co-founder of JJ's Hello Foundation, a youth mental health and suicide prevention foundation. This organization was created following the loss of her 12-year-old son, JJ, a student at Medford Middle School in 2006. Michelle has spent countless hours educating parents, teachers, students in the community on suicide prevention and positive mental health by attending monthly Elk Grove Unified School Board meetings and volunteering at schools and events. She's a parent liaison at Mary Sukamoto Elementary, a Girl Scout troop leader, and a full-time mom, all while working for Kaiser Permanente South Sacramento. Congratulations. Would you like to say something?
Yes. I want to thank Elk Grove for all the support and the growth that it's helped our foundation get to. And I know that we've touched a lot of people and a lot of youth, and we continue to do this journey with the help of Elk Grove. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much. In the category of arts, culture, and heritage, the winner is Lyndon King. Come on down. Nominated by Kristen Lawrence. Okay. There's a parade or event happening in Elk Grove. You will likely find Lyndon King behind the scenes. Lyndon is an active member of the Western Festival Board of Directors and selflessly volunteers his time and talent each year to support the production of the Western Festival and countless other events in Elk Grove. He has become the go-to guy for local parades and coordinates logistics for the Western Festival Parade, the Veterans Day Parade, and the annual Holiday of Lights Parade. A skilled pyrotechnician, that's useful, Lyndon has provided the subject matter experience and leadership over Elk Grove's Salute to the Red, White, Blue fireworks show for more than 20 years, and the Elk Grove Strauss Festival for several years as well. Lyndon, congratulations and thank you so much. Would you like to say something?
Okay, sure. Well, thank you for everyone that nominated me and voted for me. And I'm always looking for people to help with my parades and everything else. So I'm always looking for volunteers. Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, in the category of sports and recreation, Cecilia Yara. Come on down. Cecilia has been the manager of the Elk Grove Franklin Special Olympics Northern California basketball, track, and field, and softball teams for the past decade. She has created a safe and friendly environment for special need athletes and their families to enjoy the games and create friendship and support systems within the special needs community. Special needs in the Special Olympics community in Elk Grove would not be what it is today without all of your volunteer work. Thank you so much. Would you like to say something?
Yeah, I started doing this for my son, 2004, and we grew from one team to now 7 or 8 teams for basketball and then track and field. Elk Grove's been a great community for special needs, and I'm very proud that I can represent these kids and adults and help them to make lasting friendships and be a part of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. In the category of service organizations and groups, the winner is, drum roll, Laguna Sunrise Rotary. Nominated by Angela Spees. Congratulations. 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 Yeah. Congratulations. Thanks. Congratulations, Oscar. Congratulations.
You don't sneak up behind me.
It's all
All right,
the
congratulations.
Good to see you.
All right. So before I begin, I just want to go on the record that Director Mr. Green, where are you? There he is. Yeah, he was on the committee, but he did recuse himself. So this was independent, and this is independent of his input. Nominated by Angela Spees, the Laguna Sunrise Rotarians are people of action. The club launched its inaugural golf tournament this year. When the tragic Camp Fire engulfed the city of Paradise, their club foundation donated over $12,000 for those who lost everything. Their club also focuses on youth services by hosting an annual speech contest and serving as the title sponsor for Teen Center USA's annual Teen Idol competition. In spring of 2018, the club hosted their inaugural Fish with a Firefighter event and their second annual Shop with a Cop experience to encourage and support local foster children and promote positive exchanges between foster youth and first responders.
We could go on.
I know. My goodness. The club is a continuing partner in the fight against human trafficking by working with the school district and other organizations to introduce a curriculum about this in our schools. Their philanthropy continues to foster literacy amongst third graders in Title I classrooms by providing dictionaries. They also use funds from their annual fundraisers, Taste of Elk Grove, to bring professional B Street actors to a few Title I schools to teach about script writing and poetry. And the club continues to provide funding and support to construct homes in Elk Grove's sister city, Concepcion de Ataco, El Salvador. Over the last 8 years, their efforts have helped to build over 80 houses there. Oh, it's correct? Oh, it needs to be 100. 123.
123.
Yes, and the mayor was just here. Yeah, I could go on and on about the wonderful things that this service club does for our community, but it was a no-brainer when I saw the nomination. I'm like, my goodness. So, my distinct honor to present you an award. Shall we? Let's go in, see if we can get everyone in.
You can all do your normal and just lay down here.
Here, please. Here we go. 2 more.
Would you like to say something?
So we are a bunch of fun, crazy people. We're not what a normal Rotary Club looks like. We're a working Rotary Club for the most part. We are boots on the ground, trying to get things done in this community. If you have an idea, come to us. We meet on Wednesday mornings at 7:45, Valley High Country Club. We're over by 9 a.m., so you can get to your jobs. But if you would like to join us, I will buy you breakfast for the first time around. Come join us. We have not just a lot of service, but a ton of fellowship and fun together. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We got bacon then. We have bacon.
Our next category, Young Volunteer of the Year. The winner is Shay Sharma. Shay Sharma, come on up. Nominated by Clay Dagler. In his freshman year at Franklin High School, Shay started an electronics club. Since then, he has spent more than 500 hours promoting STEM awareness in the community through public workshops and elementary school visits. Shay leads weekly meetings where he teaches club members about circuits, programming, and 3D printing. This popular club has approximately 30 members and is growing. Every month, the Electronic Club travels to a local elementary school to hold an interactive workshop where they teach students how to build a circuit with LEDs. Shay has also started an annual electronics workshop at the Franklin Community Library for all ages, where they can build a light-up holiday card. After noticing his health class did not teach much about sun safety, Shay has advocated for improving skin cancer awareness for the past 2 years. He updated health education curriculum on skincare and skin cancer, and he received approval from the school board's health steering committee. His lesson plan is now available to all health teachers in the school district. Shay's revision to the text of the health education framework for California public schools on this topic has also resulted in changes at the state level. This impressive young man also contributes his time and talent as a Franklin Community Library coach, National Honor Society event volunteer, and a Taekwondo assistant instructor. Shay is clearly a future leader in making and deserving recipient of the year's Young Volunteer of the Year. And I hope Shay runs for mayor one day. Congratulations, Shay.
But not too soon, right?
You can run in a couple years. Wait, we got to get a photo, and then we're going to make you say something. All right, would you like to say something?
Thank you. I'm really honored to receive this award, and I look forward to continuing encouraging STEM involvement and continuing with the awareness of skin cancer and their correct prevention practices. Remember, wear sunscreen.
Thank you, sir. That concludes our Mayor's Award. Thank you very much. Remember, this is on an annual basis, so if you know anyone who contributes above and beyond the community, please remember to nominate for next year. Thank you. Okay, let's move to the next item.
That'll take us on to item 4.3, presentation by Barry Broom of the Greater Sacramento Economic Council.
Mr. Broom.
Mr. Mayor,
welcome.
how are you, sir? Hey, Barry. Mr. City Manager? You see the city manager anywhere? Oh, there. Hey, Barry. Oh, they're good to see you. Members of council? Okay, great. I think there's a presentation that's going to be brought up, or? Do we have a? Oh, really? Okay, great. Oh, thank you.
Pull that up, yeah.
Well, it's nice to see everyone. Thank you for having me.
Hold on. There you go.
Thanks for making the trek.
And then Mr.
Happy
Broom.
to do it. I now know why people are complaining about traffic. I don't drive a lot between 5 and 6, and so I was surprised to see so much traffic. But
With the presentation up, Mr. Broom, and then you have a keyboard just in the podium. If you pull that out just at
Oh, I
about
see.
waist level, and then you can use the arrows up and down, and that should
Okay,
navigate
great.
you through.
well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me. And just as a quick note, you know, the organization's original 18 CEOs recommitted another 5 years. So the organization will be actually 4 years old in August. So the initial investors have made that commitment out to 2024. And I really applaud the public leadership that partnered with the CEOs on this project, because that's really what's made them feel like their time and energy has been worthwhile. Because as we know, we have a lot of opportunities in our communities, but we also have a lot of complexity with state tax and regulatory policy. So there's nothing easy, everything's earned, but 100% of the original investors recommitted. So one of the things that I felt was really important when I came in here was to create an institution for the community. You know, we've had some history of starting things and stopping things and going sideways and trying new things, and it was really important to me to create something that could be around for generations. And I am very optimistic with the first round of CEOs recommitting. The second will this year, and I think we've accomplished something that the community can be really proud of, and that is, you know, we have all the communities working together, the higher education leadership, the CEOs of our top employers, and I think we're making a tremendous amount of progress. So I'm going to give you a brief overview, you know, where we're at. Obviously, you know, with 43 CEOs, we are predominantly funded privately, about 79%. All in, our public investment is about $1 million from 19 communities. So that's a smaller percentage of it, but as you can see, the communities have 30% of the board. Just as a note, Loomis has joined the organization, so I don't know if you're at the last annual dinner, we sort of joked about that, but Loomis is now on the board. So we're at 20 public institutions, that just happened. And really, it's about investment in jobs, right? Our primary responsibility is to build a brand, a reputation, a market position, and then focus on investment in jobs. One of the things that I anticipate that will be happening with MLS, which I'm optimistic will be formally announced. Our board will be sort of out of that. Ron Burkle from Los Angeles will be the backer of that. Kevin Nagel will stay on as vice chair, but we're going to create a major venture fund to support life science and healthcare companies because that's a big strength in the market. So I think, you know, and you know, the organization and the market continues to increase its competitiveness. I want to talk a little bit about some of the strategic initiatives that we're working on. The Competitiveness Council as you know, is led by John Jackson from William Jessup, Willie Duncan from Sierra College, and our bill to create a statewide economic development plan just passed on consent. We got some early sentiment that Governor Newsom may sign it. You know, we're not going to be doing a lot of public policy, but you know, we felt this was important because part of what happens when we're competing with other communities in other states, their governors are deeply involved in the transaction and the investments. Their states bringing a lot of resources to the table. You know, we didn't fortunately have that under Governor Brown, although he did many fine things. Economic development wasn't really his purview. I think Governor Newsom is going to change that. So we've been working with the leadership of Governor Newsom as they assemble the team, and I think he's bringing some really talented young people to the party. So on the competitiveness side, I mean, that policy was introduced through that council. It's passed on consent. We have two major industry objectives that we're developing, along with the life science sector, food and agriculture, as well as mobility. Our champion programs have been going very well. I know we're going to be bringing those to the community now. So we've been kind of training the leadership, but we went out to El Dorado County. We had about 50 people come for the Champions program. I think on May 21st, we'll be in Yuba County, which will also be a training program. And I know we're working on a date to where we're actually come to Elk Grove. So your civic leader, your chamber, different people like that can go through that process, get a better understanding of what's going on with the market. Our Economic Development Directors Task Force still meets once a month for 3 hours. Darrell Doan has been elected chair. I think that's pretty prestigious to have the 19 economic development directors in the region to elect Darrell as chair. Subsequently, along with the mayor, Darrell Doan serves on the board of directors of the organization as well. So, you know, kind of the internal pillars are engagement. How do we work with the community, educate the community on opportunities, help improve planning? We've been doing a lot of things with SACOG. We'll probably be very helpful on this transportation initiative. And the ability to take marketplace information, get that to James Corliss and the SACOG board, so when we're making strategic decisions, we can strengthen our job platform, we think is very important. About a third of our money is spent just on research and analysis. We're making a lot of headway in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley, and we're doing really well in Seattle. And I think with Ron Burkle being part of MLS, we're hoping that Ron will help us open up the Los Angeles market. Danielle Casey, my executive vice president, is here with me. She has dropped in some new economic models for us that has helped us become successful. I'll go over that. Marketing and PR, I mean, building our brand and building our awareness. That's one of the things that makes us really excited about MLS. It's another sports franchise. That's 4 months of having the community's name out there, another draw to the market. But I think we've made a lot of strides on brand and reputation, both within the state and outside. And then, of course, business development. How are we generating leads? How are we prospecting? How are we handling projects? And I'll get into that a little bit more detail. So obviously, you know, the first thing is, you know, we're building a market, right? So the community's a market. So, you know, if you live in Elk Grove or if you live in Folsom, your market's Folsom or Elk Grove. But as we know, when investments are made, the housing market in Elk Grove comes in as a value proposition. The schools of Placer County come into a value proposition. Obviously, our higher education base is a critical value proposition. How well are airports being run? So, you know, eliminating the entry point into the markets, creating a seamless delivery system, you know, improving our higher education interface, which we've made tremendous strides on. You know, Sac State has launched a student entrepreneurship program with $6 million. It was capitalized by Dale Carlson, one of our directors. So in addition to Sac State, engineering programs working on mobility, UC Davis is more engaged in the market. Our community college system is very dedicated now on workforce. So all of these different institutions are all at the table now, getting one set of economic messages, and I think it's going to dramatically improve our chances in the future. So state, local, region, obviously, you know, we feel very positive about Governor Newsom's ability to create capacity and capabilities at the state. You know, they are going to be producing a new infrastructure program for us. You know, not necessarily on the redevelopment side, but more on the enterprise side. They're going to be rebuilding the State Economic Development Organization. They'll be rebranding that. The governor is going to form a group of economic advisors that will be giving advice to the state on how to handle the economy. And then obviously the governor's committed to affordable housing. A 3.5 million housing objective will be coming out. And their first step, because of the bleeding out of the Bay Area, is how do we retain companies that are in California, which is good for us because we've always felt like the Bay Area and Silicon Valley, that our region was a good retention platform for it. Then obviously our own markets, and then on the back end, Elk Grove, I think your team's done a great job. Your work with startups, we were involved in designing that program with Daryl. I mean, you found out it was oversubscribed instantly. So there's tremendous market interest, and as we put capacity and real estate in the market interest, we'll get momentum, and I think we're making some great strides with regard to that. So obviously, you know, we need the state to get involved, because when the state sets these, you know, when they push CalPERS down to the community, they're not paying attention to the economic impact of that. They're not necessarily tracking their regulatory process on what the unintended consequences are. You know, one of the conversations we've had with the state on affordable housing is if it's $200,000 a unit before you hit the ground under construction, there's going to be no affordable housing program. And if you do 200,000 times 3.5 million, I don't think the state's going to be able to close that gap. So, you know, one of the things that we're asking the state to do is really analyze, you know, their industry oversight on the construction of housing to see how much of that has created an unintended consequence. Because, you know, we do support the climate change measures. You know, we want to be good to the environment. You know, we're happy that we're moving towards electric vehicles. But, you know, basically, we're making development and construction too hard in California. We can't keep up with the demands. We miss too many economic opportunities. And really, the housing crisis is really a production crisis. And that's, you know, being seen all the way throughout our region. Obviously, housing a huge advantage in Elk Grove. So just kind of given the region snapshot, you know, we're at 142 billion, 2.5 million population, 1.2 million jobs. In the last 4 years, we've reduced our dependency on government by 13%. So some of the key objectives, like diversifying our economy away from government, is really important. I think also with the pension impacts on government, you know, I think over time, in the next 3, 5, 6, 7 years, a lot of that gap is going to be paid for with headcount. You know, if you're in a community where, you know, 33 to 40% of your economy is public employees, you know, just a 5 or 10% correction in jobs over the next 10 years, you know, 10% correction in jobs would be the equivalent of 4 Intel plants closing. So, you know, we shouldn't be taking the threat on these impacts lightly, but at the same time, you know, we got to meet the obligations. So how do we meet the obligations and the promises made, and how do you avoid the impacts being too negative? But, you know, the growth of the economy has been really strong. We're now the fastest growing skilled workforce in California. We're outpacing the national average. Obviously, here's an update. You've dramatically improved jobs in Elk Grove, but this is really an interesting number because, you know, really no community produces more than 25 to 30% of their jobs. But as you can see, outside the region, that number's going up. So we're seeing higher and higher outside the region numbers. And that, of course, is why we have so much traffic, right? You know, if we build a better job base in our community, our residents won't have to figure out how to make that Bay Area trek work and telecommute and take the transit system. And, you know, all the presentations that we're going through right now with our communities, this outside the region number is really growing. And so, you know, being able to build our own base is going to be important from a sustainability standpoint. You know, this is an econometric model, but, you know, we make sure of returns. So obviously the way this works is, you know, if you take a project like Centene, obviously only 25% to 20% of that workforce is going to come from Sacramento. So each announcement, you know, only 1/4 of the jobs come from that community. The 3/4 of the job comes from the region. We track that so we can distribute income. And so that's a direct tax return on 152 jobs. And of course, it's an, you know, it's an econometric model. You'd have to supervise payroll to be for sure, but it's pretty consistent and a pretty solid practice. So when you look at why communities work so hard in economic development, they do it right, it's pretty lucrative. And so one of the things that we make sure we do is we're paying attention to returns and services and making sure people are getting what they should be. The direct return, 13 to 1, the market return, 328 to 1. Unfortunately, the state keeps most of our income. So, you know, if we can get the state to put in the tools and help us offset our competitive position, that will be tremendous. And then obviously, you know, our action plan as always. We have 91% turnout for our retreat coming up, which is where we develop our plans. So that's pretty impressive when you consider a 43, 44 CEO board that we have a 90% turnout, plus public leaders have lots on their time too. President Napolitano from the University of California system is going to be with us at the retreat. She's actually going to come up and stay 2 days with us, which I think is very exciting. And we're going to have one of the key people from the Newsom administration on the economic development side coming with us as well. So obviously we want to continue to affect and perfect our regional brand. Our feedback from the Bay Area and Silicon Valley is that our branding work is really making a difference, that they're starting to think about us as an alternative to invest. Obviously, with 27,000 people moving here, people vote with their feet, and we're overwhelmingly the choice for Bay Area people to live in. Business climate, I mean, these are always tough issues, but one of the things we've asked Governor Newsom, you know, that there should be a business climate objective by the state. You know, whether you feel like you can lower taxes or should, or, you know, whatever your objectives are on climate change, you know, those are your objectives, but it shouldn't be a zero-sum game. You know, we should be trying to make California more attractive to business. We should be trying to make it easier for people to make investments, and that includes everything from affordable housing to middle-tier jobs. You know, in 2018, 1,800 companies left California, which is a striking number. And most of those companies left because their middle-income, middle-tiered employees could no longer live here. So a lot of it is, you know, the taxes and the regulation piece, that's some of it, but employee impacts on affordability and lifestyle are driving that as well. And so, you know, if we can put more housing in the ground, build more balanced economies between communities, we can take some pressure off of the Bay Area and Silicon Valley, and I think we can also do a good job on you know, creating a more balanced economy for everybody in the state, because that's obviously one of our goals. Infrastructure, we'll be working with SACOG and Councilman, your leadership on making sure that's a success story. You know, our feedback basically is, you know, if we want to get these cars off the road, you know, we got to have more balanced employment centers and communities so people can work more close to home. And then two, you know, we have to up our game on transit. I do think Henry Lee's done a great job with the regional transit system. So hopefully, you know, that confidence has been changed from where it was in the past. And I know other communities are coming on board. So we should be able to get efficiencies there. And with a strategic investment in 2020, I think we should be able to expand that to a real success story. Workforce development. This is tough because the state sends us workforce dollars with so many rules, so we lack the flexibility. You know, so one of the things we're asking the state to consider is, can we block grant this program so that when a pool of money comes into our community, we can train people around life sciences and mobility platforms? Because one of the challenges on the workforce development is it doesn't really push a community to train people for the future. It pushes a community to train people for the present. And so what's happening is, and if you remember from the Brookings Institute report, you know, we're really behind on skill sets in the digital age. So we don't have a big digital market. You know, we're not San Francisco, but training our people for that sector, I think, is really important. You know, improve our ability to elevate and grow the economy. And then, of course, advanced clusters, life science, healthcare, food and ag, and mobility are the three clusters that we're centered on, and we're getting great traction on all three. So I'll just give you a kind of a center of excellence model. I mean, obviously, UC Davis. We went to Research Triangle Park so people can understand markets. RTP has this great reputation. They've earned it by working really hard. They're in North Carolina. But really, the market is really not much different from size or strength than ours. They have a very friendly government for economic development who invests. That's a little bit different. But we should be able to put our market on par with some of these more national innovation models, you know, once we get UC Davis more engaged and raise all the other higher education bases. Aggie Square, that's in the central city. UC Davis obviously is in Davis, and PEM has not been cited, but you know, there's a big push on to try to develop more inclusive economic development. You know, from the Brookings report, 1/3 of all families are struggling financially in the region, and there is a disproportionate amount of people of color in that model, over 40%. So we think the mobility platform, we've raised $40 million towards an $80 million capital goal. Arlen Orchard's leading that. You know, he's in conversations with like CARB on how the California Air Resource Board can partner on it. But what I love about this mobility platform is it's hardware, you know, and you make stuff when it's hardware, and it allows you to train young people in certifications. And the Germans are fantastic at that. So PEM's out of Occam University. So my hope is by the fall we'll be able to announce PEM. We're already making progress on UC Davis, and then Aggie Square. The RFI will go out in June, and by August, the goal is to have a negotiated developer that will build that out. UC Davis will be an anchor tenant to its own project. There's about a dozen companies already talking. So if you have a good healthcare system, a medical school, you have a real estate apparatus around it, and you have a useful relationship between that and the industry market, it's driving a lot of excitement. And UC Davis's medical school now is in the top 20. So obviously, you know, annual goals set by our board were 126% goal on locates. Our payroll generator is about 4,000% of goal. That's what happens when you get a 5,000 job announcement. You don't really plan for those. So all the other goals are heavily inflated, but the locates and the qualified prospects I'm particularly interested in. And, you know, we sort of, you know, it's a new organization, so we've, you know, transitioned it a couple of times, as you might know. And I think Danielle Casey's leadership, you know, Danielle was 40 under 40 internationally. She was named Arizona Economic Developer of the Year. She was in Scottsdale for 6 years. She's got a deputy city manager experience in her resume, so she's very good at working with communities and cities. She's been with us about 8 months, and she's really done a great job, in particular on our national site selection platform. She's got a data science background, so all our evidence and data has gotten sharpened, and she's a terrific leader. So I don't know, Danielle, if you want to, did she leave, or she's, oh, there she, you want to say hello? Yeah, right in front, yes, thank you. So, so, you know, we've graduated 246 people from our Champions program. So, you know, our goal is to get a really educated community, our brand's up, our reputation's up. You know, we have we have much better access in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley. It's still pretty tough, but our access in other markets are really strong. I mean, Seattle loves us. So I go to Seattle now about every 3 weeks, and we've gotten really good penetration in Seattle. So we have a lot of dialogue going on with Microsoft. And of course, Microsoft has 4,000 people in Silicon Valley. And, you know, even though they make a lot of money, they don't make enough money to live down there. So obviously we don't want to see Microsoft leaving California for Texas, but they could come to our community and we would be happy to host them and make their employees feel warm. So I think we have a lot of interest from Microsoft. Google's always tough. Salesforce, we've had them 14 times. So really, you know, we've been focusing on these small tech companies, focusing on building in our infrastructure, right? Science infrastructure, healthcare infrastructure, research infrastructure, and then elevating our brand. But at the end of the day, we're gonna need a big turn on real estate to really be able to capture this. So I am seeing a big change in the real estate market. So I'm seeing LA and Bay Area developers who build buildings, who will put in spec real estate, which we need some people to do that for us, coming into the market. I think CalPERS could possibly be an equity partner on some of these. So, you know, it's going to take a while to put the product in line, but I think the good news is if the product's in line, we're going to get results. We just built our new website, and again, Danielle did that from an analytics standpoint. So I think we have 2,200 sites. So before we were, you know, chasing our real estate sites and trying to create a central location for it. Very difficult to do between the economic development director and the brokerage community. So this is why you hire people, you know, under 40. I think Danielle fixed that in a relatively short period of time, and evidently, you know, there was some new tools on the market that made that much healthier. So whenever a property opens, it immediately goes into our website. You know, I'm sure it's not perfect, but it's a pretty high level. And as you know, a lot of times what happens when people come through the community, when they leave, they go back on our website and reassess the market. So our portal's really important to us. Obviously, I talked a little bit about this CoreNet. So we came out, this was the online commercial database that I was talking about, but we've also started to partner more with CoreNet. CoreNet is the corporate real estate arm of major corporations. That took a long time for them to take us seriously. But, you know, they came and did a major event in our community. They brought 100 executives up from Silicon Valley. So CoreNet is now going to come here twice a year, and that's going to be really important that we engage them, because those are the people that get the projects from the CEOs to analyze. So that's Apple, Google, all those type of companies. But now, you know, with this new online analytics tool, it's going to be easy for them to follow up. And another great example of Danielle's work. About a few weeks ago, Andrew Shapiro right here, the managing director of Biggins, Lacey and Shapiro, he's in the Bay Area, and he's one of the primary guys that sends employers to Texas. So we have specifically targeted the professional consulting group in the Bay Area that are helping companies leave. That's what their clients ask them to do, so that's not a judgment on them. But we had him here for 2 or 3 days, and he was very impressed with the community. So we're chipping away at this. So we had 6 national leaders. They came in from Austin, Texas, Phoenix, Chicago, New York City, the Bay Area, and you know, spent 2.5 days with us, really got a handle on our market, and I think they came around really impressed. This is one of the reasons why we need the governor to be more engaged, because it's very easy for someone just to paint us in a tax and regulatory standpoint, but when you get people here, they see the value proposition and they understand it a lot better. Obviously, this is just the analytics platform, so you know, one of the things that really works for our economic development directors is, in order for them to do the normal things they would have to do to talk and interface with companies, the baseline cost on that, just on the technology, is about $150,000. So we're able to custom all the economic analysis, do all the living and labor analysis, obviously all the property development, the company analysis and vetting, and then of course, they work off of our portal. So it's about $150,000 maintenance costs that's made available to all the economic development directors as part of their investment. And I think we're making a lot of progress. So I wanted to come by and say hello. I appreciate your time as always and support. And I'd be happy to hear have any questions or feedback or constructive criticism on how we can do better.
Questions? Go ahead, Councilman.
Barry, as always, a lot of data. I always like conversations with you. We get into details. One of the questions I have about, well, a couple. One, you mentioned Bay Area developers building buildings on spec. I was wondering if you had any insights on that, given we know the challenge of doing that. Somebody's got to pay for the loan and
right.
tenant.
Yeah, so the challenge here is our developers are family owned. So if Buzz Oates builds a spec building, that means, you know, the Oates family puts the $32 million up to build the building and then gives the personal guarantee. And so when you have privately held family enterprises like that, or AKT, both of them on my board, you know, that's a lot to do. So it's a kind of a chicken or egg piece, right? So companies come through here and we can't meet their requirements. And then on a new build, you know, they're already cautious about California and all of the democratic interfaces that come with construction and development. And so they don't have confidence we can meet an 18-month or 24-month schedule. Most of their schedules are sub 18, sub 15 months. The Bay Area companies are backed out of New York. So the Bay Area developers, so this, you know, so one of the developers we have in town that's looking really hard at sitting here, you know, their money comes from Prudential. So a lot of these big insurance houses, you know, break off an equity investment. So if you've got a company worth, you know, $260 billion, they're not sweating the $32 million. So these big investors have to put the money to work, or they give the money back, because, you know, that's how they manage investment. So we have to connect developers who have institutional money behind them. So there is a developer that is going to come into town, and it'll be announced in the next 2 months, that's going to build 1.2 million square feet of spec space.
Wow.
And, you know, they're out of New York, and they got a bunch of money behind them. So they'll come in and build the building, and then when we're talking to companies, it's either under construction or the building's ready. Same thing with like the hole in the ground in downtown Sacramento, Project 301. So Project 301, you know, if we get a 200,000 square foot tenant, which is hard to do because we can't meet schedules, CalPERS is willing to build 1.2 million square feet. So I think we're probably in the next 2 to 5 years, we may have a much different development community here that works primarily with employers that have much deeper capital. And a lot of times what happens is these developers also have the relationship with the companies.
Right.
So it's going to make it a lot easier for us. I mean, we're basically, cold calling on companies as a nonprofit from the state capitol. I think we've made a lot of penetration, but I think I've shared this with you before. Daryl knows this. I've made 1,100 presentations in the Bay Area, and that is a lot of presentations.
Yeah.
And not all of them are to a decision maker. Sometimes I'm pitching, a temp help or something, someone got stuck in the room with me. So having these major investors like a Ron Burkle for MLS, well, I'm going to, now all of a sudden, if he puts $500 million into this community, he's going to do more than just build, a facility in the rail yards, because he's got a lot of resources tied up in this community. So he'll start doing other things here. And then my presumption is he'll be inspired to help open up the LA market, because he's going to want to make sure his investments, covered.
Sure.
So we're going to be moving up. On the developer side, there'll be more national developers, people like Trammell Crow, Fan Trust, 5 Points. These are the people we've been talking to. Some of them are actually traded on Wall Street, so their capital situation's different.
Right.
Versus our family-held developers who actually literally have to take the money out of their personal pockets. And then if the project doesn't go well, no matter how well you're doing, losing $20 or $30 million in equity on a project is going to change your life.
Sure.
So that's why we've been without product.
Thank you. And the other question I had was, you mentioned a lot of great companies, Google, Microsoft, and such. You didn't highlight in here, and I'm just wondering what you're doing for, that tech startup that might be in Elk Grove or Sacramento.
Yeah. Well, so one of the things, we're more the institutional player, right? So Daryl and your chamber's
We're
the
doing
on the
that too,
ground
yeah.
folks.
Yeah.
So your chamber and your economic development director plugs into an institutional play, and then we create these interfaces with these markets. And then Daryl's team gets access to everything we're doing. So when you're doing your community planning here, like redeveloping this mall, you're going to have market intelligence on what's coming out of the Bay Area and LA. So, so from a startup standpoint, we will announce a $400 million venture fund in food and ag within the next 60 days. So 250 million of that's closed. So what I've been trying to do for the startups is getting the universities to be more cooperative. So like the Carlson Center at Sac State will provide training for Elk Grove startups. Okay. So it's not just captured inside Sac State.
Right.
So we're going to focus on Sac State students. So we're going to motivate the student entrepreneurs, but there's a lot of Elk Grove kids going to Sac State. So the Carlson Center will provide a service model at Sac State for students, but Dale's going to regionalize that. So Elk Grove will be able to plug into it. That's one of the things we'll be doing.
Great.
So creating these accelerator models will be one, and then two, creating capital. So in addition to this venture fund, which is real, 250 million has been closed, the broader fund that we're developing after MLS, which will be led by Kevin Nagel. Kevin's a very ambitious guy. He says it's a $1 billion fund. I said, I'll take 500 million. I don't want to be greedy. But that's going to be in all the life science, ag, digital. So that'll have a more generalized capitalization. So these startups will be able to get access to the capital. And then one of the other things we'll do, this year, this year we're rolling out our international program. So at our retreat, we're going to roll out our foreign direct investment program. And then the year after that, we'll probably have 1 or 2 full-time people doing nothing but working with startups. But that's probably 18 months out.
Yeah.
But the capital's going to be very soon.
Thank you. A lot of exciting things coming.
A lot
Thank
of
you.
exciting things, yes.
Questions? Councilman?
Yeah, Barry, thanks for coming down. I know
My
it's
pleasure.
No, it's a tough time getting down here with traffic, but people that live here and work out of the area know that every day.
That's for sure.
So, and obviously you're preaching to the choir on what we need to be doing, and I totally believe that the old saying, if you build it, they'll come. And we've got some land that we would like to have one of those investors build on. So
Yeah, I think that's a perfect location for it too. And so that's a big part of, so what we're trying to do, right, you come in, we're new, I launched this thing from scratch, and you go out and run a basic business development program, marketing, communication, wave the flag, lift the nose of the plane up, and get running, right? I mean, that's basically what you do, because it's a startup. It started in a little file with, little brown office, right? So now we're starting to figure out, like, what are the services we need to provide? So the REIT-backed developer will be perfect for that project. And so I've talked with like Mark Friedman, and so our own local developers, so they're not upset. that were, you know, because they're investors on our board. It's like, well, you're going to do, you know, you really want to do these smaller projects. You want a little safer bet, right? You want to do more mixed-use development. Well, these big developers are going to throw off a lot of opportunity. So so if you're a land developer, these big developers are going to be your best friend. Number one, they may buy the land from you, but number two, they're going to raise land values by putting in product. So really, you know, to be honest with you, we really just don't have the kind of product that we need. And if we did, we'd be doing very well. So wet lab space for our science community and our biotech community. We need more Class A office for the corporate locations. I think people, and I always use the Kimpton effect on this. So, you know, a lot of the developers locally go, well, that'll never happen, and we can't build 2 million square feet in Elk Grove. And I said, you know, if I'd have told you 5 years ago you'd sell condominiums for $2.5 to $4.5 million in downtown Sacramento, you know, you'd have told me I should belong in another field. But that's happened, right? The difference is somebody built them, and somebody built pretty nice ones. And I really do think the market's here. So that's the good news. The market is here, and Seattle is very interested. LA is very interested. I think China will be very interested. I think Europe will be very interested, and I think we have a real opportunity to grow a broad-based economy.
Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you.
I do have a question. We've had this conversation probably maybe for a year plus now. One of the things I like your approach is talking regionally. One jurisdiction is not as convincing as a multiple jurisdiction, and leveraging potential employers to come into this region. And then, of course, the spill out from that would then benefit the various communities.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that and I appreciate that, but I represent Elk Grove, and so this is going to be tough. But my question is, what can you do to put my city at the forefront and to be at the table whenever these big employers are coming?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. I mean, one, we've got to get more product in the ground. And, you know, we have to get to where you've built this beautiful bedroom community with good schools, fantastic quality of life. And, you know, I really respect community input. So we're going to have to go through some exercises on community input that people are going to get comfortable with a major investment not being a negative thing, but being a positive thing. You know, so I think you have a chance to be front and center, you know, not only on the redevelopment of the mall, but, you know, you do have a very impressive pharmaceutical and medical asset here. You know, once that's reconciled by the community, you know, in a constructive way, very unique. You know, there's only 10 of those schools in the state of California, and you have one of them. And it's in the biggest market that we have. You know, healthcare is our major employer, 151,000. Our healthcare market's stronger than Houston and Nashville. And of course, it creates great public health benefits. So hopefully we'll find a way to manage that community relationship in a positive way so people feel good about it. And we'll be obviously patient and as supportive as we can. I think the redevelopment of your mall on the street, you know, is critical. But I think you're going in the right direction. You know, unfortunately, development's complicated. It takes a long time in California. But I think the momentum's there, and I think you're doing really well.
Thank you, Mr. Broom. And I have to apologize for the giggling in the back. Folks, look, folks, if you want to speak, you will have an opportunity to speak. But I will not tolerate inappropriate behavior in the council chambers. Giggling and laughing is inappropriate. You will have your 3 minutes. That's fine. Go ahead and sign up. But this is an opportunity for Mr. Broom to make a presentation. So please respect that. Thank you. Yeah. Are there any other questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Broom.
Thank you, Mayor.
Next item, please.
Take us on to item 4.4, the Arts Commission Annual Update.
Good evening, council members. Lana Yoshimura, Community Event Center Manager. It's my great privilege to serve as a staff liaison for the Arts Commission. They are here this evening to present their annual update to you. I'd like to introduce Chair Nan Mahan, who will be making the presentation.
Hi, Nan. Good to see you.
Hello.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. Whoop. How's that? I'm privileged tonight to come before you to tell you about all the good things that our commission has done this year. But first, I would like to introduce my fellow commissioners. First is Cheryl Grice, who is our vice chair.
Go ahead and stand up so we can see you.
Yeah.
And stand up.
Stand up. And Liz Irons, commissioner. Leslie Sandifer, also commissioner. And Sally Guttridge, who is our commissioner and our recorder, she's not here, right? She is absent right now. So I think she just got back from some fantastic month-long trip in some exotic land. So, and also I'd like to thank Laura Yoshimura, who is our staff person, who has taken us by the hand and led us through this year, and we are very grateful to her for her guidance. And for the city graphics department, I believe that's led by Lupi Marietta, and they have been so supportive of us and done everything that we have asked them to do. So some of the things that we did this last year, I'd like to review them for you. We had our inaugural IRIS Awards. We're very proud of that. It's our first year to take in to recognize. Excuse me.
I'm going to advance the slides for you.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's not moving, is it?
No, ma'am.
I have to move it myself.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. See, I told you she has to take us by the hand. The IRIS Awards, it's our first year to do them, and what we do is we recognize the Elk Grove artists and their contributions to the arts in our community. Now, the choice of these particular awardees, we laid out guidelines that were very strict on who we would choose, and every one of their nominees had to meet those guidelines before we made a decision. So our awardees were Iris and Arnie Zimmelman for their Lifetime Achievement Award. And as a side, I might note that the IRIS Awards were named for Iris Zimmerman, who was the founder of the Strauss Festival here in Elk Grove. Judy Tafoya was Patron of the Arts. Bill McDonald, Literary Arts. Jerry Simpson, Visual Arts. Gary Mendoza, Performing Arts. Let's see. There. And there's our awardees on the night of the celebration. The percentage for the arts program, our members served on review panels for the Animal Care Center art selection, exterior sculpture, lobby material, mural, and sequenced wall hangings, and a music sculpture selection. Also under the percentage for the arts program, our members selected the iconic sculpture by Gordon Huther, the dance sculpture by Trevor O'Toole, the literary sculpture by Adrian Littman, and visual arts sculpture by Victor Bohodud. I think that's right. Now, just a couple of weeks ago, the iconic sculpture was installed on the Civic Center grounds. As you can see here, it's being installed. I think that when everything is completed, and this sculpture in the evening will light up in colors. And so it'll be very impressive at the nighttime. And I think when the landscaping is all around it, it will be even more impressive. But as you drive down Bighorn Boulevard, you can't miss it. It's right there. I don't know if any of you have driven by there and looked at it. Yeah. So you can see that there's still some work to be done, but it's impressive. It's 25 feet tall, which is a little higher than me. And our dance sculpture is completed and waiting to be installed. I think it shows great movement, and I think it's everything that we want it to be. Our literature sculpture is in fabrication, as is our visual arts sculpture. Some of the things that I don't know if I can't, I'm having a little trouble getting close enough to the microphone and still dealing with this slideshow thing. Anyway, we got a lot of community volunteer support on a couple of the things that we supported this year. For instance, we had the first Elk Grove Writers Conference in October, and Loy Holter, who is a community member, put that together, produced it. And then we had an Elk Grove Poetry Slam, which Loy Holter was helpful also in putting together. And as you can see here, two of our ARS Award members volunteered and came out and helped us with that, and that would be Bill McDonald and Gary Mendoza. In March, we were very proud to have presented the Lost in the 50s musical review. 463 tickets were distributed for this show, and 88% attendance rate. We're very proud of this, and I want to thank you all that attended. I particularly wanted to say thank you, Councilman Dietrich, because you have attended every show that we've done since 2013.
It's the best show in town.
So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
And I hope that you enjoyed all of them.
I have.
So, some of the performers from the Lost in 50s musical, Todd Morgan, who is always a favorite, and Derek Fresca. He's new to our stage. He was very popular also, and then of course Virginia Ayers Dawson, who is a very prominent singer in this area, in the Sacramento area. We have a video that's being captioned, and as soon as that's complete, it'll be online for you so that you can view it. It'll also be on YouTube, I believe. Some of the things that we're looking for to do in the coming months is the Civic Center Art Unveiling, the Animal Center Art Unveiling, and we're looking at doing a world-class book fair such as other cities like Manteca, Sonoma, and Salinas, San Francisco. The only thing is that I wanted to do different is I wanted ours to be indoors. I don't want an outdoor book fair because there could be a lot of problems with that. It's much safer and easier to do it indoors. So when our Civic Center is complete, we're hoping to start plans to do it there. We will continue with the utility box beautification. And we are in talks with some producers now regarding a film festival. The producers that we're talking with are the ones who originated a place called Sacramento. And so we're working with them to see how we can take little baby steps to start our own that's geared toward just to our city, as theirs is geared toward Sacramento. We'll be doing the Iris Awards again in November. And hopefully, we'll get to do another musical review. I already have some ideas on that one. And then, of course, we're looking forward to selecting a kinetic sculpture for our Civic Center grounds. These are your commissioners. Any questions for me?
Are there any questions? No questions?
No comments? Nothing?
Thank you.
We
Nan, for
appreciate
what
you.
Thank
do.
you for your hard work.
Yeah, thank you, Nan. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
And the entire commission.
Next presenter.
I'll take us to item 4.5, the Trails Committee Annual Update.
Good evening, Mayor Lee and fellow council members. My name is Mark Mendenhall. I'm the chairman of the Trails Committee this year. This is our committee. Thank you. We have a new member. Deanna Donahue joined us, and she's getting on board quickly. This is what we do. We provided input on CIP and planning projects, and tonight I'll get into some of what's ahead. What's happened lately? Lower Laguna Creek Trails construction. This new trail provides a trail extension of the Ryland Trail into the Sacramento City Trail System. Due to weather issues, the completed trail opening has been delayed to late spring or early summer. Here are a few pictures of the progress earlier this month. This is the street crossing at Bighorn Boulevard. It's in place, just not activated. And the trail extension into Sacramento is still gravel, but people are using it now. The Green Bike Lane project was expanded to Elk Grove Boulevard, Emerald Vista through the Automall Drive. These provide increased visibility for bikers and bike lanes. Green bike lanes are planned for Elk Grove and Laguna Boulevard over the railroad tracks between Laguna and Laguna West. Laguna Boulevard is already partially done, and that's on your consent agenda for tonight. We still would like to see the Green Bike Lane project expanded to include the bike lanes in front of Dutch Brothers on East Stockton Boulevard. The bike and auto traffic, along with driver distractions in this area, will continue to get greater as we add Jack in the Box, Popeyes, and Der Wiener Schnitzel later this year. The pedestrian crossing at White Lock to the future Oasis Park was improved for better visibility by adding high-vis green signage. We have ped crossing and ped silhouette signage has been added to key trail crossings and major roadways throughout the city. There it is. The CSD has finished concrete repairs in the Camden area, taking away uneven surfaces created by tree roots and shifting substrate. Our priority one for our committee for the Laguna Creek Trail, we go forward from last year. We reviewed and commented and attended a community meeting on the design and layout proposals for the Laguna Creek and White House Creek Multifunctional Corridor project. I was told that's what it's called. Section of the trail. Environmental and route option studies are underway. This is what the alignment looks like so far. We reviewed the Sheldon Farms North Development Project that includes the Lewis Stein to Bruceville trail segment along Laguna Creek. There is a trail component on the south side of the creek under a different project. And we reviewed the preliminary design for the trails west of Bruceville Road. This segment takes the Laguna Creek Trail to the Sacramento City Trail System and connects to our new Lower Laguna Creek Trail addition. There's also a project to widen and add bike lanes and other amenities to Bruceville Road. I took a few pictures of the primary route along, shown here in orange. Yellow is the existing trail connectors. This is Bruceville segment, Laguna Creek Trail. And there's a couple more pictures. The Strawberry Creek priority was brought forward last year. Make sure I got the right button. Last year, but by our committee, a grant application was submitted to SACOG and was declined for a variety of reasons. Staff plans to revisit and address the shortfalls. We'll likely need to address community outreach, connectivity to both Elk Grove and Sacramento City trail systems, and define the need for this trail more globally. It can be safe routes to school enhancement as well. There's more work to be done. Here are a few pictures along the route. This segment is along the south side of Calvine Road, and this segment is behind homes towards Jones Park. Paving the Elk Grove Creek Trail from Emerald Vista to Elk Grove Florin will target the 22-23 year. This is a long time coming and will be a great project when we finally get there. Last year, we proposed a loop completion segment to the Elk Grove Creek Trail from Onito Park to Laguna Springs Drive. We received a SACOG grant for completion of the orange segment. The yellow is existing and construction is targeted for 22-23. Thank you for that. Last year we talked about our fitness loop concept. It appears we will get back to this program development later this year. As our trails connectivity grows, we see the need to carefully plan these routes and include the latest developments. We have our two roundabouts constructed on Sheldon Road with separated bike lanes, which seems a little disconnected at the moment, but connectivity is on the way. We have several road improvement projects in the works to take us from broken asphalt and fog lines, it was raining the day I took the picture, to new widened pavement with bike lanes on our rural roadways, including approaches to the roundabouts. We hope to see these projects in 2021. This was taken on Waterman Road, where it's already done. The project to enhance the eastern section of Elk Grove Boulevard in Old Town to include a protected bike lane is currently working on right-of-way and SMUD utilities rerouting planning. We hope to see the project underway in 2021. This should be a great improvement to both cycle and auto traffic. I want to take a moment to review the Creekside Estates development application. It is located just northeast of the Waterman and Bond Road intersection, where Laguna Creek partially surrounds the property. The trails plan calls for a trail circling the project on all but the Bond Road frontage. At first glance, this seems like an odd design parameter until we see the critical connection this segment provides to the entire Laguna Creek system. The yellow is existing, extending west to Camden Passage and east to Bradshaw Road. The orange would be CIP projects to finish the connection. The north-south power line trail, shown in green, will eventually pass through this intersection as well. To be blunt, we can't let this go unbuilt. The trail is planned to go under the Waterman and Bond Road bridges, and we'll need to modify the sidewalk on Bond into a trail to connect to the signalized intersection at Sierra River Drive. I've dwelled on this project because it absolutely must be done to finish this connection. Most connector projects are CIPs. Developers contribute both physical trails within their projects and to additional city funds to build the trails network. these funds are not enough to build our trails. Grants, federal, state, and regional, are leveraged with city matching funds to advance trail priorities. We need to make sure staff has adequate support to write and submit grant applications to keep these projects moving forward. Creating more and safer bikeways is always a priority, and encourage them to people to use them is always ongoing. Nefarious activity. I always put a slide in for this. Our general comment is we need to be protective of our trails and mindful that all citizens paid for them, maintain them, and wish to use them. We got a lot of improvements going forward, mostly roadway and bike lane projects for the next 2 to 3 years. We'll see some major trails projects commence in 22, 23. So this is the multi-year vision. We need your support to move forward. And last year, I showed you our mandarin and wood ducks. This year I found a flock of lesser and greater scaup, aka bluebills, passing through, and a muskrat. Thank you. Any comments or questions?
Questions? There are no questions. Thank you, Mark. Perfectly clear.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark, and the entire committee.
All right, next item.
Take us to section 5, public comment.
Okay, public comment. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are interested in speaking on any item or anything that's not even on the agenda, feel free to sign up and you will get your 3 minutes. I must caution you, though, the council extends to you 3 minutes to make your presentation. At 2 minutes, the color of the timer will then change. You will have 1 minute to summarize. We would like to try to stick to that because all of us have families that we have to go to, and we're trying to expedite the city's businesses as much as possible. So again, you have 3 minutes, 2 minutes to make your presentation. The last minute is to summarize. When you see that the buzzer is, or the timer has turned red, that means your time is over. Thank you, folks. And the first speaker is Noah Davidson.
Hello, my name is Noah Davidson. I'm actually from the Pocket area. I'm here to talk to you about the implementation of the 5G network. It has already begun to be implemented in my neighborhood, and my sister, her home had one of the very first antennas installed right in front of her home, about 50 feet away from bedroom window. Didn't think too much of it at first, did very cursory research on the topic, and found that there was a little bit of evidence suggesting that this could potentially be dangerous, and a little bit of evidence suggesting that it could potentially be safe. So like I said, didn't think too much of it. As time went on, 2 months in, my 2 nieces, 5 and 3 years old, they became sick. They are very rarely sick, and they stayed sick for 2 months. And they, like I said, very rarely sick, and began to concern myself as well as my family. Started researching the topic more and more, and found that there were a number of studies, hundreds that I've seen, suggesting potential negative health effects as a result of radio frequency radiation, the type of radiation emitted from cell phones and cell antennas. If you look at the information that says that radio frequency radiation is safe, most of it does not pertain to the situation of having an antenna directly in front of your phone. Most of it is aimed at cell phone usage. Your exposure having an antenna right next to your home is going to be vastly more and for longer durations. In my youngest niece's case, she's 3 years old, she's home all day, every day. She's being exposed to large amounts of radiation all day, every day. I have become very concerned about this topic. I went around to all the neighbors around my sister's home. Most of them had no idea that they were even living near an antenna. Once I told them, they became very upset. We all wrote a letter to Verizon asking them to remove the antenna. We have not heard back from Verizon yet. We've all reached out to our public representatives asking them to move the antenna. They have not been very responsive in this situation. But I encourage all of you to research the topic independently. I encourage anyone that's watching to research the topic independently, and then ask yourselves, would I want one of these things near my home? Would I want one of these things right next to my home? Increasing my chance of cancer, psychological problems, immune system suppression. And if you wouldn't want one next to your home, how could you justify putting it next to someone else's home?
All right, next speaker is Mark Graham. Following Mark Graham is Mimi DeVille.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Mark Graham. I live in Elk Grove. The organization that I'm a part of is called Keep Cell Antennas Away from Our Elk Grove Homes. And if anybody wants to reach me, either catch me on the way out or ask the city. They have my contact information. Keep cell antennas away from our Elk Grove homes. Do the council members see this slide? It says hope.
Yes.
Excellent. All right. I want to start by talking about hope. The day the city loses hope in this battle that you are in with AT&T and Verizon is the day that you lose the battle. And I hope that that day never comes. And I hope that you realize it is a battle. The experience with SB 649 should have taught everybody that. This city opposed it and 325 other cities. Why do I mention that? Currently, this statement appears on the city's new 5G webpage. I'm glad that the city has a webpage about 5G, but take a look at this statement and read it. This is, first of all, it's incorrect as a matter of law and public policy. And I think that this is a very discouraging statement. What would you think if you were a resident of the city, and suppose you had just heard the previous speaker, and you're thinking, well, gee, do I want one of these in front of my house? And then you read this on the city's webpage, and basically it says, we can't do anything for you. We're doomed. There used to be a cartoon, and there's one character that said, we're doomed, we'll never make it. This would discourage you, wouldn't it, from coming down to the council and saying, this is what I want from the city and what I don't want from the city, wouldn't it? This is incorrect as a matter of law. Now, there's actually no legal basis for that statement. That is not what the law says. This is an extreme position. I think it's at odds with the positions of cities all over California and all over the United States. This probably came from your city attorney. It's either him or the city manager or the two of them. Now, I'm recommending that the city should get a second opinion on this. You have nothing to lose from getting a second opinion as to what the city's powers are. What do you have to lose from not getting a second opinion? You could just be led down the wrong road, fail to protect the city's interests and the residents' interests, all of them, which include health, house values, and aesthetics. Get a second opinion. Call Best Best and Krieger. If you don't want to call them, call somebody that specializes in this area and does it every day. Best Best and Krieger do that. You do not have to wait until federal law changes. Now, we've had meetings with the mayor and 3 other council members, and we greatly appreciate those meetings. Councilmember Detrick, we're looking forward to the day when we can meet with you as well, when your schedule permits. Not once in any of those meetings did any of you say what this slide up here says, that the city can't do anything until protect residents' health until federal law changes. Not once. So there's this disconnect between what the council knows and believes and what your staff knows and believes. And you need to take control of this issue with all due respect. I'm almost out of time. All I would say is ever since 1996, cities have been denying some permits and approving other permits.
Thank you, Mr. Graham.
And you have the ability to deny certain permits.
And our next speaker is Barbara Patterson. Sorry, Mimi, you're a little bit further down the line. I had a mix-up on my computer screen. So Barbara Patterson, please come on up. And that's, everyone has 3 minutes. So Barbara Patterson, you're going to waive your time. We're going to go to the next speaker. Barbara Patterson? Oh, you want to come on up?
I want to give it to him to continue what he had to present because it's really important to all of us with children. So
Yeah, so this is not a discussion. Everyone has 3 minutes. Mr. Graham and I, we are going to be working on a workshop with Supervisor Donna Tolley, which will provide more opportunity for input, and that's upcoming, and that's yet to be announced. So I recognize how important this is, and that's part of the reasons why I feel that it's justified to do a community workshop other than just the 3 minutes. Mr. Graham, thank you. You're raising the issue has been very important, but we need to have more time, and that's the reason why you and I are partnering up in a workshop. So our next speaker is Barbara Patterson. Barbara? I'm fine. Okay, Nancy Record. Nancy Record. Following Nancy is Gary Sibner.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, point of order. Point of order. I believe under the
Mr. Lee, this is not a discussion. I know. Look, sir, if you want to say something, fill the form out. Otherwise, I'm going to interrupt you because you've done this before to come and interrupt. This is not how the meeting's going to run. No, sir. No, sir. You've done this before. You're very rude. You're a bully, and then you do this repeatedly, sir. If you want to fill something, go ahead and fill it out. Our next speaker, please. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Nancy Record. I'm also a Sacramento resident, and I'm speaking about the 5G. In Sacramento, all around me, there's 5G antennas going up, and it's we didn't have any say, and I'm really glad you're willing to look at this. In 2011, a smart meter was put on my home, and my health just declined rapidly. I had dizziness, I had fatigue, depression, headaches, and I finally found out I could get the smart meter off. I knew it had microwave radiation, so I was trying to, ever since they put it on, trying to get it off. And as soon as they took it off, my symptoms started improving until like 2 weeks later, and part of it was I wasn't getting restorative sleep. I did not know it was the microwave radiation. As I talk to people, there's a lot of people in our community that have these symptoms, and they're not associating it with radio frequencies and microwave radiation. So I'm very concerned, since there are no studies on 5G. Whole countries like Belgium have halted the 5G. A whole country wouldn't halt 5G if there wasn't some real solid reason why it should be looked at scientifically and look and find studies that show the safety of it. I can't find them. All I've seen are studies that show the harmful effects for humans. 5G is a whole different frequency. It's a very high intensity, high frequency beam directed at a device. If it's close to my home and my neighbor is using a device, it's going to go right through my home in a high intensity beam. I will not be able to protect myself from that. And I want to feel safe in my home. And that's why I don't have any wireless devices in my home, because I know how it affects me. And I want to feel safe. And now in Sacramento, I might have to move when they start really amping up the antennas. And you talk about smart cars and all these smart devices. Pretty soon, there's a Dr. Gabriel Cousins said, a 5G city, you have, it's like living in a microwave for 17 minutes a day. And the effects of that on our health, the devastation can be insurmountable. And you don't want to go there until you have the proof that it can be done safely. And they can hardwire this. They don't have to do the wireless communications. You can have the fastest speed, but I don't understand. We already have as much wireless technology as we can use. I don't understand why they're introducing a whole new frequency that has potential for so much harm on our health, and especially around homes and schoolyards. Children are much more affected by the radiation. They've proven that their skulls are thinner, and so I just really want to thank you and applaud you for looking at this, because that didn't happen in Sacramento, and they just plowed it through, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Gary Sibner. Following Gary Sibner is Lynn Wee.
Mayor Lee, council members, thank you for letting me speak. I'd like to address the piece in the Elk Grove Citizen where Gary Davis, the person hired by CNU to do community outreach, accuses us who oppose their hospital project as embarrassing, low-level, dishonest, and childish. By extension, since Davis is their outreach person, this is also CNU's opinion of us. How dare they insult us? We are citizens who have legitimate concerns about a project we believe will be detrimental to our community and to the west side of Elk Grove. We have legitimate questions, and we have a right to speak out and, yes, to protest. And Mr. Mayor, I think you have already acknowledged that yourself. And for the former mayor of Elk Grove to call our constitutional right to protest childish and embarrassing speaks volumes of the integrity of that organization and their lack of credibility. I'm a Vietnam War era veteran, and I was an investigator for a state consumer protection agency going after bad actors for 20 years who defrauded innocent consumers on their mortgages. And he calls me those names? I believe Gary Davis owes us an apology that is published in the Elk Grove Citizen just as prominently as his insults were. How dare him? Thank you.
The next speaker is Lynn Wheat. Ms. Wheat, come on up. Following Ms. Wheat is Jan Smutley-Jones.
Good evening. Lynn Wheat here to talk about a golden opportunity for the city to score some economic development points. After a costly feasibility study, breach of contract lawsuit, a disappointing bicycle race destination, and a year-long construction delay, well, our time has come. The long wait for the Civic Center aquatic pool is just about upon us. Did I mention an economic development bonanza? Yes, I did. Right there in the lobby of the Aquatic Center, in a shiny new glass display case at knock your socks off prices, can be authentic City of Elk Grove swimsuits. Let's not stop there. Offer Elk Grove beach towels, Elk Grove sunscreen, Elk Grove beach umbrellas, even Elk Grove flip-flops. Even sell Elk Grove water bottles. Well, that'll come soon enough anyway. But for the biggest attraction yet, and sure to make us that destination city, at the grand opening, have Grover stand by the pool in his Elk Grove swim trunks, signing autographs for the kids. Following this, Grover can ceremoniously dip his toe into the pool. I understand I can't yield my time, so I'll just stand here.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Jan Smutley-Jones. Following Jan is Susan Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm Jan Smutley-Jones. I'm a resident of the Stone Lake community, and I am opposed to the hospital that is designed to destroy a nice, quiet neighborhood. I've spoken here before with respect to the rather bizarre location of the hospital, not in the center of any population center. I don't need to go back over that. I do want to shout out to the Planning Commission staff. They did a very good job of getting us now the second version of the project description of the facility, but it raised some interesting questions. I note on it that they've raised the level of 7 feet because we live in a 200-year floodplain, which basically means my house will flood if that happens. But this is a hospital, and this is a trauma 2 level hospital that I assume that in the event of a natural disaster would be used as a place to take care of people. It's great that the hospital is up an extra 7 feet, but all the access to that is underwater, perhaps almost all the way back to the railroad where it basically goes towards Franklin. So how emergency vehicles are going to traverse through 3 feet of water, I don't know. That, I think, is a problem and raises some interesting questions about why there. In the alternative, this is a 400-bed hospital with staff. Assuming we now have to evacuate them, how are we going to get them out of the hospital? Think Hurricane Katrina. The reason I raise this now is you need to be thinking long and hard about how this basically is going to affect our community in the event of an emergency. And the third point here is, what about the utilities going into the hospital to support it? The sewer, the water, the telephones, electricity, how is that all going to go? So I think this is a terrible location for a number of reasons. We already have a hospital going in further to the east, and that'll hopefully be able to service the community. But I do think that this, you are the people that are going to be responsible for how we're going to get emergency services in the event of that awful event occurring, which I obviously hope never happens because I'll be underwater. But at any rate, this is, I think, a folly to put this facility in a 200-year floodplain, and I would encourage you to encourage the developer to find another location. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker is Susan Mason. Susan Mason. Following Susan is Mimi DeVille.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Susan Mason. I'm here tonight for 3 reasons. 1, to thank you for developing the small cell telecommunications facilities webpage under the current planning projects. 2, to support Mark Graham's efforts, his requests, keep cell antennas away from our Elk Grove homes. And 3, to restate my opposition to any installation of 5G cell towers in our in Elk Grove. Under the section updating local policies and regulations, I found a link to information about safety of radio frequency RF and microwave emissions from transmitters and facilities regulated by the FCC. Wow, I found some helpful information here. Under the header, can radio frequency radiation cause cancer? Quote, some studies have also examined the possibility of a link between RF exposure and cancer. Results to date have been inconclusive, end quote. It would be helpful to provide a summary that many research endeavors, like from the FDA, the EPA, the National Institute of Health, the World Health Organization, and all those have not fully concluded safety. In fact, they have inconclusive results. So my question is to you, does the city want to assume any risk, any health risk, if these towers are installed? I still feel that there is limited information regarding what other cities and communities are doing to stop the installation of the small cell towers. I would like clearer information listed. I saw a paragraph labeled lawsuits filed against the FCC and California Supreme Court, but nothing on the communities who have already successfully blocked full installation. I've joined the mailing list as I want to stay informed. This is an issue that I do bring up with my Elk Grove neighbors and friends. I would like to see more advertisement or exposure of this issue, and so it's good to hear about the meeting that's being set up with Supervisor Natoli. And I recommend to please add a citizens or residents' comments and requests section so that maybe some of the comments that we make are recorded in here. And I believe I also found a typo in the section Elk Grove updates. The special meeting that was held November 28th, it was 2018 because we haven't reached November 28th, 2019 yet. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Mimi DeVille. Following Mimi is Kathy Engel.
I feel a little bit intimidated. There's a part
Good evening. I was recently looking through some public records that we got through a PRA request, and I came across this interesting article. This is a miniature rendition of an article, a full-page ad that ran in the Sac Business Journal. It's hard to tell when it was because it's undated, but based on the $18,000 of invoices dated 2016, I think it ran about that time. And what's interesting about it is CNU is front and center, and it states that the city was in talks with CNU to expand their facilities. So while it doesn't talk about a medical city or a big 13-story hospital, wet labs, or any of the other things that are going about right now, it was very obvious in the last line here that 2 hospitals were coming. So my question is, can we please give equal time to Dignity Health and take out an $18,000 full-page ad for them? Because I think a lot of Elk Grove is under the impression, based on the focus on CNU, that Dignity has abandoned their plans to build a hospital here, and that's not true. So that's my one question. And then second to that, in the interest of not letting the tail continue to wag the dog, has anybody thought of asking Mr. Chung, Alvin Chung, to look at that piece of land at Moneta and Laguna Palms, that big, like, many acres there that would be prime for his medical city? So, that said, I won't take up another 1 minute and 17 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker is Kathy Engel. Following Kathy Engel is Amrit Sandhu.
Hi. I first want to say that I was disappointed that we had to listen to almost 45 minutes of Barry Broom, and then were admonished. Some people were admonished for laughing at some of the things because they were pretty funny, and we kind of can't control when you laugh at things that are outrageous and funny. So, and I did get a chance to actually talk to Barry outside, and I did ask him a question. I asked him, what have you done? What has the Greater Economic Council done for Elk Grove so far? And he said, we're trying to bring the pharmaceutical industry here. Clearly he didn't know who I was when I asked him the question. So apparently he has done nothing so far. So that's awesome, because I know that we pay $100,000 per member. Is that right? $100,000 per member that sits on that board per year. So although the bill I'm going to talk about later only says $64,000, so I'm not sure if we're getting a discount now. Anyway, I was copied on an email a while ago in which Daryl Doan, Connie Conlon apparently questioned his involvement with CNU. And at the end of the email, he said that he doesn't lie. And in fact, he said that such a claim by Ms. Conley was defamatory in nature. So I want to speak to that, because I recently met Ms. Conley, and to date, she has never lied to me. And, but I can't say the same thing about Mr. Dowd. It seems that at every turn, there is something that is either a lie of omission, and it always has to do with spending money for a CNU hospital. I was copied on another email yesterday where there's an explanation for the ads that Ms. DeVille was just talking about. The explanation, he said that's just normal what they do. I have not seen any ads, so what I would like to do with the rest of my time is ask, are there any more ads? And I know I won't get an answer, but we'll eventually find this out. I did a cursory search, I didn't see anything. But also I'd like to know, are any of these things that are being spent on CNU, perhaps some of it's being reimbursed? So I'm not gonna jump to the conclusion that if I see it paid, that it wasn't reimbursed. But those are questions that I have. And the last thing I wanna say is that I think that, where'd he go? I think that you owe Ms. Conley an apology. I do not think that that was appropriate. And I just wanted to say that publicly. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Amrit Sandhu, and following Amrit is Steve Lee.
Hi.
So my name is Amrit Sandhu, healthcare provider in Elk Grove. I've lived here for many years, as you guys know. I've worked my way from Taco Bell to a nurse practitioner, have my doctorate and a degree. And I actually had a prepared statement, but I just have some concerns. I'm actually considering leaving Elk Grove at this point. And some of it is, there's a lot of disrespect towards citizens and their concerns. The former mayor, Mayor Emeritus, as he likes to be known as, actually I've sent him 10 emails requesting meetings. It was the same email string, but there were 10 requests to him. And at every turn, he said, let's talk. So I met him at Riscate with Kathy because unfortunately, I'm not trustful of CNU or Gary Davis at this point. I sat down and I said, when can we meet as a group? I also extended the same request to Mr. Suen, and he actually gave us a date and everything. And I said, Darren's coming down to Stone Lake to answer questions about what the city's role is in building hospitals. So we'd actually like to have you guys come down. I was told that unless you guys are willing to mitigate, we're putting our hospital there, and we're gonna put it there. And if you're not gonna mitigate, there's no reason to talk. Kathy was witness to that. I said, Gary, when are you gonna come and talk to the residents? Why would I come talk to the residents if you're not willing to mitigate? This is citizens, homeowners, requesting the CNU spokesperson to come and talk to us and give us their side. There's been nothing but lack of transparency. We ask questions, we don't get it. Today we're dishonest, we're childish. I would describe myself not dishonest. I'm looking out for our community. I'm looking out for my children. It's just really disheartening. The second part is, Chief, I actually called the Elk Grove Police Department for help because my son was assaulted. And I received no help because it was done on school grounds. The school has not been helpful. I can't call my police. I can't speak to my city. I can't advocate for my family. Why should I live here? I came here because it was a bedroom community. I came here for good schools. I came here for safety. I don't have any of that anymore. I'm not a big crier. 2 seconds, please. I'm not a big crier. But the city of Elk Grove has disappointed me in the last month. The school districts, city leaders, the police department, and Elk Grove, the former Elk Grove mayor, and these big institutions that are coming in. And I really wanted to share that with you. And I think the sarcasm that you hear from your constituents is because we are being called names and we're being disrespected. And I'm not sure how else to ask for help because I've asked for help and I haven't gotten any. Thank you.
Ms. Sandhu, and I want to direct this to the chief, the incident that you referred to on school campus, were you contacted by law enforcement?
No.
Explaining the situation?
No, the school failed to do their mandated reporting, even though I explained to them. So as an OBGYN provider, I know exactly how to mandate reports. I do it all the time.
Yeah. Chief, would you be able to help me out? I'm curious as to what the end result is, whether this is something that we need to discuss at a 2x2 with the Elk Grove Unified School District or...
And to be honest, Chief, I kind of lost it with the person who answered the phone. And she told me I was having an attitude problem. And I said, excuse me, I'm a citizen of this city and my son's been assaulted within city limits. I need help. And she told me that I needed to call somebody else.
Okay, so...
Yeah, we'd be happy to do that. Yeah, Captain Solomon or Lieutenant White in the back will talk to you about that.
If you could make
We'll
a connection with
Yeah.
him. Yeah, thank you very much. Steve Lee, and following Steve Lee is Matthew Weaver.
Okay, it looks like we've got a little bit of a disconnect with this dais and the citizens by just watching what this woman just went through. Not giving people, this is every 2 weeks, you guys give the citizens 3 minutes. Every 2 weeks, 3 minutes. I understand you're busy. I understand you have long agendas. I understand it's important that we get through everybody. But it's also important that if somebody wants to waive their time to talk about something that's extremely important to them, you owe them that time to waive their time and give it to someone else so they can make their point maybe more eloquently than maybe they could have. And to do that, and without giving it, and as I understand it, the Roberts Rules of Order, which you're supposed to follow up there, indicate before you can not have someone not waive their time, you have to announce that. You did not announce that. Therefore, it is proper for them to waive their time, and you cannot do anything about that. You have to let them waive their time because this is a democracy. This is the people coming before their government and saying, we have some issues, we have some problems, you need to listen to us. And you didn't allow that to happen, and you're out of order for doing that. You have to understand that. These people have 3 minutes every 2 weeks. Give these people a chance to be heard from our government. That's all I'm asking. And you were wrong not to allow her to waive her time and give it to someone else that could maybe make the argument a little more eloquently than she could have. Maybe she's nervous. She's never spoken in public before. You need to have these people, give them their opportunity to speak. It's wrong to quash their ability to come before their government and practice democracy. Thank you.
So, Mr. Lee, thank you for your input, and I do appreciate that, but it has been a tradition of this council, maybe some of the more senior council members can share how the 3-minute came up, or Jason, if you can chime in, but that's a standing policy. Correct me if I'm wrong.
For the 3-minute speaker limit, that would be adopted by resolution of prior city councils, and it's established. It is allowed under the Brown Act. If I can touch upon elements such as Robert's Rules of Order, that is a set of rules that folks use for parliamentary bodies. It's nothing that's been adopted by the city council. I'm not aware of its use in a lot of local governments throughout California, but it originally came up for parliamentarian bodies in which you're trying to keep order with large groups of people that are trying to speak, and that's where you get a lot of these items about tabling manners, speaking in orders. Those types of rules of order have never been adopted by the city council. Our 3-minute speaker limit set up from our resolutions of how we plan to run meetings, and that 3-minute speaker limit is an allowance that is permitted under the Brown Act.
And it's never been a tradition within the city where a speaker yields remaining of their time for the following speaker?
But as your city
been?
clerk, I am not aware where there is folks that have ceded time. What folks may be seeing is during public hearings, there are applicants. They do have the ability to have their spokespeople speak, but we do not have any tradition. If that were the case, we could end up having folks just come and sign up, and we could have an hour and a half of comment from one individual speaking, and that has not been a practice.
A follow-up question is, there could be a change with the direction of the council if we want to extend the 3 minutes beyond.
Correct, because you have those as your rules of order for the meetings, so that would be a policy decision by the city council.
Okay, thank you. Our next speaker is Matthew Weaver. Following Matthew Weaver is Constance Conley.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I've been to a number of city council meetings and regional planning meetings in my 18 years with AT&T, so I know these discussions very well with right-of-way, public placement of cell phone antennas, et cetera. But I'm not here to talk about that, but I do know that public municipalities get involved in that every day for both economic interests and for economic development interest. And serving 2 decades in the telecom industry, I know the city has lots of leverage that they can place on Verizon and the other carriers. With that said, I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to echo many sentiments that I've heard tonight, and I wasn't planning on speaking, but I've been very compelled to speak. Part of the reason I felt compelled to speak, Mr. Mayor, is because of the way you admonished your audience today for simple laughter. By your visibly hostile environment, I do business in 11 municipalities. I have been to city council meetings, school board meetings, and had customers like Stanford University, city and county of San Francisco, and I've never seen anybody be yelled at like I've seen today. But my frustration predates my arrival here today. Like others, I'm here to speak against the CNU project. I operate Results Transformation Center at Stone Lake Landing, and I've been patiently waiting the alleged collaborative conversations that we're supposed to have. And like others, I'll go on record to say that Mr. Davis, Mr. Wagstaff, Mr. Rosenberg, and the entire staff at CNU have played games, postured, put false information in front of me, and required me to dig as deep as I have and come into contact with some of the people who've spoken today to finally say enough is enough. I do not trust them. There is no transparency in the organization. And they want to talk about saving lives. Let me tell you some statistics. I've helped people lose 500,000 pounds. I've helped over 10,000 people possibly get out of depression, eliminate diabetes, and not have a stroke. Hospitals aren't the only way to save lives. Staying healthy and being healthy is imperative. And we were one of the first businesses to come and resurrect that other ghost mall on the west side of Elk Grove, and we brought vitality to that center. And Mr. Davis went on record saying that CNU has helped us, and your announcement, arm in arm in December, has put an economic downspin in our business because you went and told the community you're going to put a demolishing ball to my business one way or another, and then told them you're going to work in collaboration, which is not true. So when city council, city mayor, and private sector decide to steamroll others in the private sector and claim the greater good, enough is enough. I'm all for hospitals. I'm all for healthcare. My daughter's entering college in hopes of being a pharmacist, so Lord knows I'd love an inside track at CNU as well. But the way this is handled is not ethical, it's not transparent, and it's not above board, and Elk Grove should be embarrassed.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. Our final speaker is Constant Connolly.
First of all, Jason, with all due respect, during the Walmart, Linda Ford stood up here with 20 people, and we yielded our time, one by one. So it has been done. You just have to request it ahead of time, or we have to be told there will be no yielding of time, and you should remember that because you were here. I also want to talk about, and again, Pat, I have to pick on you because you're the only one who was around. When you were on the Planning Commission from day one of incorporation, you were part of approving all the home areas that went in, Stone Lake, Laguna West, Westlake. Am I missing anything over in Laguna area?
That's actually not true. That they were still a part of the county then. Remember, that's why they were annexed in.
But actually, things came up before the Planning Commission, and we were told at the time sitting here that all of those areas were going to be the pristine part of Elk Grove, that we wanted to have high-end homes, we wanted to have master plans, we wanted to have areas where people would want to come from the Bay Area and other areas that had a lot of money and buy very, very exclusive homes in that area. That's what we sold it as. We didn't sell it as what's going on now to these homeowners. It's very unfair to them, and I'll use the rural area as an example. No one would dare put a hospital over in the rural area. We have our rural road standards. We have standards. We have plans in place. You even want to put a sidewalk in the rural area, and you'd get such pushback you wouldn't dare do it. So if we have a set of standards over in the rural area where I live for the last 40 years, we should have the same set of standards for the Laguna area. And I'm upset because we all had to sit here and listen to Amrit speak her truth along with everybody else. And if that didn't bother you, that people that came here and put down their money and their heart and their soul and wanted to raise their families, and now they want to move out of Elk Grove because they no longer can feel safe, they no longer feel that they belong. Listen, I will tell you this. All of you do not have power. You hold power. You hold power given to you by us. And until you realize that, none of you belong to be up there. You hold power. You do not have it. We give it to you. We give it to you with one voice and one vote. And that is the most precious thing that any of us who go to the polling place can do, is give you our vote to represent us. And are you doing that now? I think you better look in the mirror and decide for yourselves if you are.
Thank you, ma'am. That's our final speaker, so let's move to the next item.
Take us to section 6, general administration information.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I just want to remind the council and members of the public, there's a bi-weekly report that the city manager puts on the city website that has information about upcoming events and activities and some of the major projects that are underway within the city limits. And so I'll just defer to that report. People that are interested in taking a look at that on a regular basis can please do so. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jason. That'll move us on to item number 7, council comments, starting with Councilmember Nguyen.
Thank you, sir. I will keep it short in the interest of time. Last week was Holy Week, so I spent a lot of time with family and the Easter Sunday holiday. But I was very fortunate enough to attend the NAACP prayer breakfast. Thank you, Chief, for allowing me to sit with your team. I also did the Summer Youth Orientation Program last Saturday. This program is in conjunction with Assembly Member Jim Cooper's office. We're hoping to give youth in our city here summer jobs, internships, and opportunity to be able to explore in the field, a career field of their choice, and also be paid at the same time during the summer months. I did a shred event in partnership with AARP just recently and was able to shred over 9,000 pounds of documents. And this Friday I'll be doing an e-waste. So if anybody has old computers, hard drives that you need to get rid of and would love to donate them, contact my office and we'd love to come get them from you. That's all I have, sir.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Detrick.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. Before this meeting, we had an audit committee meeting. Vice Mayor Hume and I sit on the audit committee, and it was very heartwarming to see that we continue to improve. The only deficiencies we found, we already have procedures in place to fix those deficiencies. But overall, it was a very, very strong audit. And congratulations, Jason and Brad and your teams for continuing to fine-tune all of our financial categories. And then Shane, I see you in the back. It's that time of year. I'm going to ask, did we send out the letters already for the weed abatement? Okay. Yeah, with that rain and the hot weather we have, the stuff's growing several feet tall. Yeah, taller than Randy now. So no, thanks for doing that, because that's obviously very important this time of year. And we saw the fires that took place in other regions around the state, so we want to do everything we can to keep everything in check. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Soon.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Since we attended the Sacramento Transportation Authority meeting, we've been hearing about unmet transportation improvement needs throughout the Sacramento County, from all the cities. We had a SACOG retreat focusing on our mission in the next few years. We had a board meeting where we heard from Contra Costa Transportation Authority, Randy Iwasaki, who his agency's got the lead on autonomous vehicle technology actually in the nation. He's got the only car that's licensed for autonomous vehicle on public streets. And then continue to talk about the Green Means Go effort to meet our greenhouse gas reduction. Attended the Brewfest. Want to commend staff in Beers and Sac for another great event, over 4,000 people, not just Elk Grovians, but people from around the region. So that was an accomplishment. And then supported an event for my sister's house that helps victims of human trafficking and sexual assault. Thank you.
I also was at the STA meeting. I had a paratransit meeting, which I'm disappointed to say that the direction from the Board of Paratransit was to direct the executive director to negotiate with RT and remove paratransit providing regional service to Elk Grove riders and to riders in the region wanting to go to Elk Grove. Unfortunately, I don't know whether it was staff or whether it is the way the unions are contracted or if it's our contract or what, but RT is wanting to provide the local paratransit service within Elk Grove themselves, but they don't want to provide the regional service because that obviously would be a cost they couldn't recover. So it seems we're at an impasse to provide that one-seat ride for folks wanting to move around the region. It's disappointing, but it was about a 18,000 trip burden that would be subsidized by paratransit and would cause layoffs, and so we just said we couldn't afford to do that. And then I had the audit committee meeting this afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, been on long spring break with my family. The one thing that I wanted to highlight of the events that I did attend was having an opportunity to do a meet and greet with the Asian Chamber of Commerce. The folks that were actually invited to this particular dinner were individuals that were doing business in the city of Elk Grove. Had some interesting conversation. Obviously, we saw some of the regular people that we see at our regular chamber, but I saw an opportunity, and one of the discussion point that I had with the chamber was maybe we should really stop thinking of just Elk Grove, but we should be partnering up with other chambers to think regionally on how we can attract employers into this area. So that essentially was a highlight. So that is it. Let's move to the next item.
Take us to Section 8, the consent calendar items.
Okay, I have a few individuals signed up to speak, so I want to open public comment. Invite Kathy Ingo to speak on 8.2, 8.6, 8.17.
Hi. So I'm going to talk about 8.6 first. The Elk Grove Boulevard, I-5 Southwest, the off-ramp. We actually went to the Planning Commission meeting and we heard the report, and we heard, I think it's Kevin said that we could request to have that just removed unless this has something to do with CNU, which of course we would have a problem with. And then I just want to speak to a couple items that are in the little checkbook register. And that is because some of them are labeled from the CNU meeting, CNU fact sheets, $373.35. It's on page 23. So I'm wondering, because we specifically asked that question, were they paying for that or was the city paying for it? And we were told that nobody was paying for it. So we thought that they had brought those themselves. So I just wondered if that was being reimbursed or if we have to pay for that, because those were some pretty snazzy brochures, and it's kind of a slap in the face to also have to pay for them. And then there was also some other charges. It looks like there was a special council meeting before that, and then the community meeting. There were some charges here, and it says CNU info meeting. Oh, that's my note, but it's on that date. It's 2/22. So was that for that also, the special dinner before? Do you know?
I don't know.
Could you find out?
I'll find out. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I just want to, I just want to be clear on if they have to reimburse. I think that I read that on the application that they were supposed to hold community outreach, and at their expense, not our expense. So I just wanted to clarify that. And then what was the last one that I wanted to?
I will say, Kathy, because I don't know exactly what number you're talking about, but I will say I asked staff to make sure we had fact sheets to hand out. So that came from the city side. So I don't know if that's what but I'll find out.
Well, I think the problem was that those fact sheets weren't very factual, And I think I was told, I don't know if it was you or if it was someone else that said, well, we can't control what they tell us, what they put on their fact sheet. So that made it seem like it was that they brought them. So I was a little confused when I saw that. Oh, and then also on 8.17, I just want to know, as far as the design, it lists stakeholders, and I'm wondering with that, who do we consider stakeholders? Because we care about the design of the city, and we would like to be included as a stakeholder in that process. Is that possible?
That's the applicant. That is not.
Oh, that's not, well, it's something, it's a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute consultant contract.
For the Dahlin Group for the design
Yes.
guidelines.
And
Oh.
it says that, then when I looked at the contract, it says that they will interact with stakeholders, and I was wondering who stakeholders are.
We'll see if we could look at opening it up for a public workshop, perhaps.
Yeah, something like that.
I'll talk to staff
Because,
about that.
you know, if it has to do with the look of the community, clearly we have an interest in that.
Absolutely.
So,
Yep.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Brenda Smart. Following Brenda Smart is Lynn Wheat.
Changing up stuff. Hello. I'm just here to say thank you. I have a few representatives from our team. Our team signed a poster with the Elk Grove Piranha swim team. Those that don't know who I am, Brenda Smart, head coach. We appreciate, we dreamed it. We all believed it, and you guys helped achieve it. And we are gracious for this new pool. The Aquatic Center is premier. It is, we're blessed with CSD's Wackford Aquatic Complex, but we've outgrown it. We have 12, 15 kids in a lane every night for our workouts. And this new facility is the nicest in the region. I walked on deck and just about, I stopped. It was like being a kid at Disneyland in a candy store with all these gifts coming my way. So thank you for providing our community with water. Thank you for providing our children with something that they can grow up doing for the rest of their life. Thank you for providing the adults that are interested in swimming. It gives a recreational component. It is just a million thank yous. Cannot wait to get in there now. Thank you, Lana, for all your help with everything moving forward. But this is a sign saying thank you. Most of our team has signed it. We're leaving it for you guys. So thank you. This is Jack and Olivia, two of our swimmers. So
Hey, guys.
thank you,
Thanks,
thank you,
guys.
thank you, thank you.
Brenda, thanks for your passion for swimming and in helping our kids in the community, too.
Thank you.
Hey, Brenda, have you driven by it at night?
I have not gone by at night.
You
I'll
have
be
to.
out there.
It's beautiful.
I will be out there soon enough.
Yeah.
10-hour days. I can't wait. I can't wait. The inside is just amazing.
Yeah.
So
Brenda, thank you for your perseverance on it too, because we've been.
Absolutely.
It's
I've
been
been
a long
watching
time.
you for a long time coming up to the dais.
yeah, it's been a long haul, but thank you for showing us that dreams do come true. I really appreciate it. So the swimming community appreciates it. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Thank
And
you.
for
ma'am.
those that aren't sure about it, we have a master's program. So those adults that want to swim, come join us. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Our next speaker is Lynn Wheat.
Lana, would you take that?
Good evening. I'm going to speak to item 8.17. Even before any public input takes place, the proposed scope of work includes interviews with city staff and providing feedback to staff on areas where the current guidelines need improvement. On what policy basis is this consultant operating under that qualifies them to tell Elk Grove what we need? The scope of work attached to the proposed contract is deficient in defining the scope of public outreach. In the beginning of the work, under the project initiation phase, the scope only states that the consultant will discuss the public participation process. Seeing that a contract amount is already specified and public participation programs cost consultants money, it is my belief that a public participation plan needs to be outlined in the scope before a contract amount can be accurately estimated by the consultant. I would also note, however, that the proposed scope of work has no problem including stakeholder input and specifically mentions by name the industry working group, designer professionals, and other real estate professionals. When is the city going to start including local residents who pay the taxes and have to look at the buildings every day as stakeholders as well? The scope mentions the Planning Commission and the City Council meetings, but realistically, this is an awful late in the process for the public to expect the consultant to rework some of their ideas. So while I am encouraged that the city apparently wants to try to lift Elk Grove up from the bottom of the Sacramento region, given the relatively low contract cost of $149,000, I question how committed the city is to really lifting us up to the level of some neighboring cities in the region. I see a scope of work that is deficient in public participation, sketchy on deliverables, and a cost that almost makes me think that this is just a minor cleanup project. I suggest the city divide this work into two phases. First, establish the public participation and stakeholder input process. Receive input from the staff, public, and stakeholders. Then, when the basic scope of work is defined, the city and consultant are in a better position to cost out the project. Finally, I am reminded of the recent Costco project and the bland design that was approved. Councilman Hume asked the architect why the building did not rise to the level of quality of other Costco's in the region. The architect responded that we built it according to your standards. I just want to be sure that this work before us will rectify that. Thank you.
Thank you. And seeing that there are no additional speakers, want to close public comment. Councilor Relation and Direction.
So actually, I have a quick question. So I'd like to pull 8.17, and I want to make a comment on 8.19 and move the rest of the agenda. My comment for 8.19 or consent items. Comment 8.19. I am very pleased to see the results in here from Michelle Zamora and Warrior Z Fitness for our staff. I mean, that's a great turnaround, and it's a wellness program beyond a gym membership. I was so pleased to see the seminars that took place on health and I can't even say the word ketosis from one of the doctor. Huh? You can say keto. Keto. Thank you. Okay, that's fine. I don't even know what that means, but that's fine. But I know it's something good. I mean, I know it's about us learning about our health and more than just a gym membership. So really appreciate that, and so I'm really excited to see that extension go forward. Anyway, I'll move the rest, and I just have a question for 8.17. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, got a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to recuse 8.10 only because my husband is a part of the traffic division, and he does at times monitor or looks at the red light traffic system.
Okay, for the record, Councilmember Nguyen has recused herself from 8.1. Is that correct?
10, yep, 8.10, yep.
All right, 8.17.
8.17. So thank you, Mayor. Is Mr. Jordan here, or are you going to handle things, Antonio? For this scope, I do want to make sure that the public is engaged at some point, with the understanding that it may not be exactly what I don't expect the entire public to come to a consensus on everything. That's just not who we are. So I think input is fine, but I think folks be prepared that a decision has been made and may not be in agreement. But the public should definitely be engaged and have an opinion on these.
Yes, at this point, we don't have the scope refined to where we have public workshops as part of that scope. We could definitely work with the Dahlin Group. I've worked with them before. They'd be amenable to adding that to the scope. It would likely add some cost and maybe additional time to the overall scope of the work. but we could work on revising that scope if it's the wish of the council to do that and return with that revised scope for you to review.
I would ask my colleagues if they'd be amenable to that. I mean, we should have a say on, the public in general should have a say on what things are gonna look like in the future. And I do think, for the record, the industry working group, on the flip side of that coin, there's cost in the people who are actually doing the building, so I think they do also have a say. So this is where we need to all come together for a conversation, and so.
I agree.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you all.
All right. Okay.
Do we need to move that
Sorry,
item?
yeah, with that change, I will propose move that item.
So Mayor, members of the council, I think we heard that there might be some additional costs. I don't know if we know what that cost is. So a couple of options. You could give staff some latitude. We could give a not to exceed for the additional cost, or assuming this matter is not time sensitive, and I don't know that it is, staff could revise it and bring it back with those additional features and additional costs. Council's pleasure, what you want to do.
If it's not time sensitive, I would say go ahead and get the cost and bring it back. I'd hate for us to try to speculate without.
Well, if you look at the Exhibit C under the tasks in the budget, the 2 meetings that they had proposed for stakeholder input were $1,650 apiece. So if we did a not to exceed of 5,000, I think that covers a couple of additional meetings.
Okay, we can
An additional
start with that,
5,000.
yeah.
So not to exceed 154, whatever.
And, I mean, if more is definitely needed, we can have a conversation later about that, so that's
You
fine.
can always amend the contract.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Thank you.
So you got all that, Mr. Attorney?
I'll
All right.
second the motion.
Okay, you got a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstention? All right, next item.
Take us on to section 9, our public hearings, and that is item 9.1, a public hearing to consider an ordinance amending the City of Elk Grove zoning map and a resolution approving a tentative parcel map for the Catenza map project.
Good evening, Mayor Lee, members of the City Council, Antonio Ablog, Planning Manager, presenting to you tonight the Catenza parcel map. This project is located on a private road on the north side of Grant Line Road, out in the rural area of Elk Grove. As far as the project, what the applicant is proposing to do is to subdivide approximately 5 acres of property that's at the end of that private lane into 2 parcels. The project site is currently zoned AR5, which only allows down to a minimum of 5-acre lots. To subdivide that property, it requires a rezone down to agricultural residential 2 acres, which would allow a minimum of 2-acre lots. With that rezone, they will create 2 parcels, parcels 1 and 2. Parcel 2 will be approximately 2 acres, and parcel 3 will be, or parcel 1 will be approximately 3 acres. So as far as surrounding the project, it is surrounded by agricultural residential development in both the AR2 and AR5 zones. So splitting this and rezoning it would still be consistent with the surrounding properties. As far as the environmental analysis for this site, staff found that the partial split, including the rezone, is consistent with our general plan, and no further environmental review is required. So tonight, staff is making a recommendation that an ordinance be introduced, finding that no further environmental review is required, and approving the rezone from AR5 down to AR2, and adopting a resolution also finding that no further environmental review is required, and approving the tentative parcel map for the Catenza project.
Okay, questions? You got one? Vice Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. Antonio, in looking at the conditions of approval and the parcel design, figure 3 in the staff report, shows the proposed building area of parcel 1 as being a little, right around 3/4 of an acre. In my experience with county health spacing requirements, you can't fit a well and a septic in that amount of land. About 2 acres is the minimum, so therefore they would have to locate one or the other On the remaining part of the parcel, when I looked at the conditions of approval, I see a call out in there for if they were to build a crossing over that drainage swale, that it would have to be reconstructed back to our standards and CSD standards. But I didn't see anything talking about if they build a septic line or a well water line, the same requirement.
Yeah, so that requirement is if there's say a habitable structure built on the north side of that channel, so that it could receive proper emergency access. If they were to build sewer lines and water lines across that, it wouldn't need to meet those same requirements if it didn't need to be accessed for emergency purposes, fire, ambulance, and so
So
forth.
I'm not concerned about the access, I'm concerned about the reconstruction of the drainage swale.
Mhm.
We don't have anything ensuring that once they disrupt that by digging a trench essentially, that they build it back to the proper standards.
Yeah, we could have a condition that it would have to meet our proper drainage and water conveyance standards, but building those water and sewer connections, we could craft it so that they wouldn't have to meet that same emergency equipment load requirements if they had to build the
Okay,
water
so
and sewer on that
set
side
the
of that.
whole
Yep.
emergency equipment, access,
Mhm.
crossing, that whole piece of, I'm not worried about
Yeah.
anybody getting to that rest of the parcel. Talking about once they disrupt that drainage swale, we have nothing in here to ensure that they build, and we've had recent experience of problems with drainage in the Sheldon area. I'm just saying somebody should put eyes on it after they put their well or their septic on the other side of that drainage.
We could craft a condition to ensure proper drainage in a post-construction condition if water and sewer lines were to disrupt that swale.
Okay.
Is it?
I think that's reasonable,
Yeah.
just because there's a condition 8 in there that references Sacramento County Health with respect to the well and the septic, but there's nothing that has us looking at to make sure they put the conditions back for proper water conveyance.
Yeah, I think the concern on the applicant's side would be that just to cross it for non-habitable purposes would require far more improvements than would normally be required. But I think putting the swale back into its natural condition in a post-construction condition, the applicant would be amenable to that.
Okay, yeah, I'm not proposing any greater improvements,
Yeah.
just the fact that again, because they can't fit both on a 3/4 of an
Mm-hmm.
acre size, they're gonna have to put one or the other out into that field. I just wanna make sure they put it back how it was afterwards.
Yes, we can do that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? No questions. Thank you. Okay, at this time, I want to declare public hearing open. Would like to invite the applicant, if there is one, to come up and speak. Seeing that. Mr. Hobbs, really? Seeing, oh, okay, there he is. Come on up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Lokoko. I'm the owner. And I believe the staff presented the project correctly.
Okay.
And I'm open for any questions.
Did you understand what I was speaking about with adding a condition to put it back to existing, and you're okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
Okay,
yes.
thank you so much.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. No questions. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to open for public comment. Seeing that no members of the public signed up to speak, want to close public comment. And Mr. Applicant, if you'd like to come back to rebut yourself, you feel free to, but if you want to waive that, we can do that as well. Seeing that you understand, you probably are waiving it. So let's declare public hearing closed. And council deliberations and direction.
I'll move to introduce and waive the full reading by substitution of title only, an ordinance finding no further environmental review is required pursuant to state CEQA guidelines, section 15183, and approving a rezone for the Catenza map project, PLNG 18-088, assessor parcel number 12301900048.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor?
Before you vote, excuse me, your attorney. I see that the staff is furiously crafting a condition to satisfy Vice Mayor Hume's concerns. I think we'll have that in just a moment. If you wouldn't mind holding off on the vote for just a second.
I have all faith in staff to carry out the direction appropriately.
Okay, that's fine. Can we make sure that we understand what the direction is? Antonio, would you mind repeating it back so we're clear?
So the purpose of the condition would be such that any sewer or septic system installation would not affect a post-construction condition on the existing drainage swale. Also, staff would also work in that any construction of those lines crossing the drainage channel would generally happen during a dry period so that no construction or no drainage flows would be interrupted when flows are needed there.
Yeah, so the only modification I would say is to have it apply both to water and septic.
Okay.
And I believe that would
Okay,
be,
yeah.
excuse me, that would be a condition on the map, not necessarily the rezone, is that correct?
Yes, the map.
Okay.
All right, we good? Shall we vote? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention? All right, next motion.
Adopt the resolution.
Okay, we got a motion second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention? Next item.
That'll take us on to section 10, our regular agenda action items and recommendations, starting with item 10.1, which is to receive information and provide direction on fiscal year 2019-20 event sponsorship grant program funding allocations.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Kristen Lawrence with the Public Affairs Office, here to talk to you tonight about your event sponsorship grant program. This is not a new program. It started in 2012. It's supported by the general fund. It is intended to support events that are being held within Elk Grove by nonprofit organizations. Previously, this information has come to you in the form of the annual budget presentation, and to introduce more transparency and consistency with the CSG CDBG grant process, we are bringing this to you tonight as a separate item. This program does have established eligibility criteria to ensure that sponsorship funding is focused on events with citywide significance that meet the City Council's goals. It is limited to nonprofit organizations. Unlike the CSG CDBG program, programming and operations are not eligible under this grant program. We utilize that program for those needs. Just to give you an indication of support under this program, the fiscal year 2017-18 is the last full year that we have data for. We had provided grants that supported 28 community events and 21 nonprofit organizations. Based on the post-reporting that all grantees have to submit, it suggested that we attracted more than 200,000 event guests to these events, and roughly 28 to 30% of them were visitors from outside of Elk Grove. The details on the cash contributions are detailed there. I want to point out that the recycling and waste information, the values to that in-kind service, it's actually negotiated in the annual or the service agreement with Republic Services. It is not a direct cost to the city, it's a contracted cost, but it is a value to our event organizers. So we do take a notice of the dollar value associated with that. In our current fiscal year, we're scheduled to provide support for 34 community events and 24 nonprofit organizations. You can see the cash contributions and in-kind service amounts there. On the in-kind services, it reflects only those direct costs, so it's the police and public works costs. So our in-kind services are for police safety services, traffic management services, and equipment that are provided by our public works department, and our recycling and waste services. So we'll provide carts and servicing for those at events. Much like the CSG CDBG program, we released the application in mid-January. It was advertised in the Citizen and on the city's website. Correspondence was sent to all of our previous applicants and anyone that had expressed an interest in receiving additional information for future grant cycles. And applications were submitted online, so there were no paper copies. Applications were due on March 1st. So of the 45 applications that we received, 43 were deemed eligible for support. The total amount requested, factoring both cash and in-kind, exceeded $500,000 for all of the requests that came in. This particular grant program, we take a multi-department review approach, so we have representatives from the Public Works Department, the Police Department, the Recycling and Waste Department, and the City Manager's Office that review these applications for several different factors. Overall event concept, the feasibility of the event plan, prior performance if they're a previous grant recipient, their potential to attract regional visitors, budget reasonableness, and their potential level of impact. So over the next several slides, there is kind of a summary of the proposed level of support for the organizations that are included in the funding recommendations. This was included in the staff report as attachment 1. There's a lot more detail to that. It kind of carves out both the cash sponsorship contributions and the in-kind contributions. I will point out that any of the services and requests associated with Cosumnes Community Services District are all in-kind. There is no cash support for those events. And the same goes with the homecoming parades. So I just wanted to let you know there's no cash exchanging agencies for those. In the interest of time, if you don't mind, I would skip over these next several slides unless you have some questions about a particular application. I'd be happy to fill you in. Most of these are returning events, but there are a couple of new ones. If you have any specific questions, I think we have a few applicants out there that might be able to answer. Again, just a number of events that are happening in town that support that hometown, small town charm. There were some event applications that came in that had an intrinsic benefit to other city departments. And in order to allow for support for more event-specific, non-business related event requests, we did share those with the Economic Development Department and the Human Resources Department. And they have pledged their support in the amounts that you see here to support those events outside of this grant program. Just a matter of funding comparison, I'll point out there's a table included in the staff report of how the totals break down. I did want to point out the red figure on the police services for this current funding year. It's not exactly an apples to apples comparison. So the 1920 figures represent allocations based on an $85 standard overtime rate for all officers. The 93,665 is representative of actual costs that have come in to date for the events that we have already served and the anticipated costs for the remaining events in this fiscal year. So 122,910 is your worst case scenario, but quite often we have officers that are working at what is less than the $85 rate. For tonight, we're looking for direction from the council on the funding allocations that have been recommended to you. And once we have that direction, we will look to include those allocations as part of the annual budget process. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you, Mayor. Kristen, I was just wondering, I thought I saw a couple of emails flying back and forth about the Holiday of Lights parade. I was just wondering if you, I don't know what happened with that. I thought it was going one way and then it went back, and I see it listed in here underneath the Elk Grove Community Council still, so.
That's correct. In February, the Old Town Foundation notified the council and the community that they were going to be discontinuing the operation of that parade. They were hopeful that another organization might be willing to step up and take the lead to produce that event. During the grant cycle, we received an application from the Elk Grove Community Council. They also contacted the staff and met with us. The logistical mastermind behind the events we gave a Mayor's Volunteer Award to tonight, Lyndon King, is working with the Elk Grove Community Council, and they're considering their options for hosting that event this year if we approve the grant.
Okay, so the Old Town Foundation is not part of it. The one I got, the email I got from Angela Perry said they wanted it back. So that's not.
I haven't received that communication from them.
Oh, okay.
I thought there was multiple emails, and the last one said that it was dead again from the foundation.
That's what I saw too. That's why I was just trying to get the latest was, but, okay, never mind, we'll find out.
That was
another
just,
way.
that was just within the last week.
Yeah, right.
Angie?
I don't know, I would need to defer to those organizations, but we have met with the community council. We have not received any official notification from the Old Town Foundation that they would like to take it back. There was a press release that had gone out, and there was also an email to all the council about taking, stepping away from that event.
Right.
Oh, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Not a question, but I just want to state before we get into discussing specific sponsorships potentially that even though the Fine Arts Center is a tenant for the company for whom I work, my compensation is not derived from anything having to do with that. Whether they succeed or fail has no bearing on my employment, and so I have no material conflict of interest. And also with respect to the Elk Grove Regional Scholarship Foundation, even though I'm a vice president on that board and have been actively involved in the Bounty on the Boulevard program, again, I receive no compensation for that position, so I have no conflict.
Okay, thank you. All right, no additional questions. Thank you. At this point, I want to open for public comment. We've got a couple of speakers signed up to speak. First speaker is Jolene Matson. Following Jolene is Ken Miller.
It's been a long time there. I brought some friends, Elk Grove Fine Arts Center members. Good evening, Mayor Lee and council members. My name is Jolene Matson, and I'm here tonight representing the Elk Grove Fine Arts Center in Old Elk Grove. We are a 501c3 nonprofit corporation that just celebrated our 11th anniversary in April. We've worked very hard to stay in business during these challenging economic times, especially for fine art entities. We believe our art center provides a needed cultural asset for the city of Elk Grove and contributes to its economic vitality. We recently moved to a larger facility, increasing our square footage to 2,400 square feet from our previous 1,100 square feet. This move has encouraged us to offer more art shows in Elk Grove to attract high caliber artists and judges to our shows. The response has been excellent, with artists, art lovers, and judges all agreeing that our shows get better and better. In March, we submitted a special events grant for 7 new art shows events to the City of Elk Grove for consideration. We hope to grow these annual art show events into important cultural events for our city, region, and state, and to make Elk Grove a magnet for the arts in our region. In fact, we've begun to see participation for our events reaching out-of-state participation, with an entry from Texas and one from Colorado in our art competition in March. 70% of the 110 entries we received from our art competition were from outside of Elk Grove, and 63% from our recent In and Beyond the Garden were non-Elk Grove residents. So we're not just reaching local artists, we're reaching people in our region. In addition, our art center is the only arts gallery art center in Elk Grove, a city of over 174,000 people. As a nonprofit, we rely on support through grants from our city and county governments to continue our mission. We'd like to thank the city of Elk Grove for their support over the last few years for supporting our annual art competition and art tour in the amount of $2,500 yearly, and the Sacramento Metropolitan Arts Commission for their grant of $1,000. Still, it is not enough. Nonprofits need to generate approximately 18% of their income from grants to stay viable. We currently generate 7% of our income from grants. We need your help. We know that these 7 new art shows and events will bring participants from our city, region, and state to Old Elk Grove, and will benefit local businesses in the retail and hospitality industries. With the city's help, we plan to grow these 7 new shows to reach even more artists and citizens of Elk Grove and surrounding communities. We hope you will vote to fund the special event grant proposal for our 2019-2020 7 new art show events proposal. Thank you for your time and consideration.
And do you have any questions?
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Ken Miller.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the council, I'm Ken Miller with Elk Grove Historical Society. I'm here just basically to thank you for the past considerations for our grants and requests. We really appreciate everything you've done in the past and what's continuing today. I wanted in particular to point out 2 events that we have applied for some assistance. The one was Plow to Plate, a dinner that's hosted at our facility, and it's going to be entering into its 3rd year, so it's an ongoing event that's proved itself, bringing people into the community from a different perspective of where the food they grow and what they eat. I also wanted to bring more attention to the latest event we had, Early California Days. It was a new event. I want to recognize Councilman Detrick for being there for opening ceremony. He looked really good coming out of the stagecoach in our opening ceremonies, and we appreciate the participation of the city in doing that. In closing this quick comment, I just wanted to identify what we did accomplish here. We brought in 2,000 people over a 2-day event, which was a very good number of people coming in, especially when nearly 1,400 were from just visitor perspective, not participants from out of the area or within the area. We were able to get through the rain and the weather that kind of obstructed us at first, but it worked out as a very good first event, and we look forward to working with the city in the future and any events, and we thank you so much for your help. And your staff does a great job. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Oh, we have one more speaker, Margie Jones. Margie, where are you? Come on up.
Good evening, Mayor Lee and wonderful City Council people. On behalf of the Strauss Festival of Elk Grove, I would just like to thank you once again for your support that you're offering and hopefully will be approved for our Strauss Festival that will be held July 25th through the 28th, and we're hoping that you all come out to see our wonderful performance. I also would like to thank you for the additional support that's being suggested with police services for this year. It would be great to have our support or see our police services help us in some way with the Strauss Festival so that the community gets to know them a little better, and we can also thank them for their good work that they do all the time. So once again, thanks for all you do. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am. Seeing that there are no additional speakers, want to close public comment? Council deliberation and direction. Members?
I'd like to request that we add the Elk Grove Fine Arts Center into it. Looks like the request was for 1,500. No,
I think it's for 7,000, I think.
Oh, it's
1,500 is being honored. It's the one they are asking for is the 7,000 is for the 7 new art shows. Am I reading that correct?
That's correct, Councilwoman Soon. They have 3 applications that were submitted. 2 of them have been proposed for funding. The 3rd was a request for $7,000.
Okay, I apologize. So I'm going to still request that we add a few of them in at least. So would that, if we added 3 shows, how much would that be instead of the full 3,500, I guess, so instead of the 7,000?
So, Councilmember Soon, we'll have to look at where we're going to take that from if we want to, because I think everything's been allocated. So if we were wanting to fund that, we have to kind of take from somewhere else. Right.
If I can add something in, I appreciate the willingness to do that. And as I said to you, Cheryl, when you were here for an Arts Commission item, but it was the night of the Community Services Grants item, you guys missed an opportunity to come for another ask from the city for just a broad blanket. You don't even have to justify it's going to these art shows. So make sure next year that you apply for that CSG. That being said, I think that these art shows, although Councilmember Nguyen and I were at the inaugural one, they're fantastic. If you've not been, please go. They're wonderful. It's an absolute jewel in Elk Grove, and the gallery itself is a boon. But I'm not sure that meets the definition of an event. But here's what I'm willing to propose is I believe I've got at least $1,000 left in my council assistant budget, so I would like to take that to augment so we don't have to pull from some other item.
I know, I was just gonna recommend the same thing too. I believe I have some funds as well too, so I'll go back and take a look and maybe I can pull from that.
Yeah, I believe I have a small donation that's coming on May 2nd.
I think you saw a domino effect, so I'd be happy to make a contribution as well. So just give me the details, and I'll be happy to send a check over.
I make a motion that
I
the
have a
mayor
similar-
matches the other four of us combined.
Yeah, there you go. I have a similar donation coming anyway, so that's fine. Thank you.
Excellent. All right, members, good? Any other direction?
Just want to thank staff for all their hard work.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, let's move to the next item.
You guys do pretty good in about 15 minutes putting this together, right?
That'll take us on to item 10.2, presentation of the Elk Grove Police Department's 2018 annual report. How do I get out of that?
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. Brian Noblet, your police chief, here tonight to present our 2018 annual report. I will not be asking for any funds, but you'll be happy to know that.
That's good because you already receive about 66% of all of them, so.
I suppose that's enough. Before I go into the report, and I'm going to do this very briefly tonight due to time, the hour, but we're going to be posting this on our website probably tonight, if not tonight, tomorrow. So I would invite you and any interested residents that want to take a deeper dive into the report. They'll certainly be able to do that as soon as that's posted. And before I get going, she's not here tonight, but our administrative analyst, too, Tamara Lopez, is the one that put all these graphics together and did an excellent job. So I just wanted to mention her before I jump into the report here. What I intend to do is go through the report, but again, not in excruciating detail. If you, as I pause on a page, if you have a question, I would invite you to please ask. I may point out a couple things along the way. I won't pause there. You know what I look like already. Just for starters there, you can see the most recent city demographics that we included in the report there, as well as you may recognize the folks on the bottom of that page there as our city council members. We did want to provide a little bit of information. You know, we reorganized the department when we added the new captain, Captain Rigo, back in October of last year. So this small rendition of an org chart demonstrates essentially the way we have the organization lined out and to whom those areas report. I am going to pause here for just a second because I want to talk about our staffing for a moment. You'll notice in the middle of the page on the left there, the number of sworn officers as it stands currently is 146. The professional staff number is up to 108. That includes the addition of all of those FTEs for the animal shelter. Not all of those are filled at this moment, but they are allocated. And while we're talking about staffing, I just want to, we've had some discussions in these chambers about our staffing. I was asked previously by you to take a fresh look at the staffing study that was done in 2016 and to come back and what I'm here to report now is, having done that, it's my belief that report remains valid in terms of its recommended staff additions going forward. So based on what we're seeing in terms of crime trends, et cetera, that I'll get to in a few moments, it's my recommendation that we do stay with the addition of roughly 3 to 5 sworn officers per year going forward. But my suggestion, and given that this will be the last time that I present this report, my suggestion is, as we go forward, we continue to just to utilize that staffing study. However, I think current crime trends need to be taken into consideration as we're contemplating additions, and not necessarily be beholden to a plan just because it has a specific number in it. I think we always have to be nimble and making those examinations on the fly, if you will. So I will state that we have submitted a request for this coming fiscal year to add 4 sworn positions, which would get us up to 150, and 1 community service officer position, which is, of course, non-sworn. That'll be subject to your approval of the budget, but I did want to let you know that those positions have been requested. Any questions on staffing? Hearing none, I will move on. On the screen on the left, I'd like to talk about just for a second. That's a little bit of a screenshot relative to crime, Part 1 crimes in 2018. Of note here, we had we saw a 5.1% decrease in robbery in 2018 over 17, a 13% decrease in burglary, and a 15.6% decrease in motor vehicle theft. All of those are of course good things to see. I do need to point out though that larceny, which is the category that contains just very general theft. It could be a bicycle, it could be a pink flamingo from somebody's front lawn, it could be anything of that nature. That category did increase pretty significantly at a rate of 9.8% in 2018 over 2017. So that will be something that we will really be focusing on going forward. We've recently implemented what we're calling an intelligence-led policing effort, which results in bi-weekly meetings that involve myself and staff and our new crime analyst. And what we do is we take a look at crime in 2-week increments. So we'll look back 2 weeks to see what our most pressing crime or quality of life issues are that we as a group decide we're going to tackle over the coming 2-week period. And then what we've done is align our resources internally to be able to support those efforts. So if we need more help from motor officers, or we need bicycle officers, or we need detectives or street crimes or whatever, what we've done internally is we've realigned our resources to be able to support really aggressively going after those things. So while that 9.8% increase is not something that I'm particularly proud of, I would suggest that we're seeing a downward trend this year already over last year. In fact, as we speak, we're down about 1.5% in property crime and 10% in violent crime through March of this year over last year. So I would submit to you that we're moving in the right direction, and I think with that enhanced crime analysis, we'll continue to do that. We'll point out too, as you'll see on the page, that hate crimes were actually down in 2018 over 2017. So that's and there were still 4, and frankly, 4 is 4 too many. But that represents a little bit of a downward trend from the prior year. The obligatory canine page. And just one quick little factoid on the dispatch page that I think really is a great statistic. 98% of the 911 calls that we receive are answered within 10 seconds, which is a pretty good rate. I believe the state standard for that, if I'm not mistaken, is right around 90%. So we're quite a bit above that. And page on investigations and forensics. Here on the investigative side of the page there is a little box that contains some information on our video camera registry. I think we've talked about that here before as well. And by the way, on the website, these links are hot, so residents can click on the link and that will take them right into the registry where they can let us know if they have their own private video systems at home, if they would like to register those with us. That way, if we get a crime in a certain area, we can look at the registry and know right from that spreadsheet where the cameras are located and know right where to go to ask folks if they might have video of something that occurred in their neighborhood. Now, we're not able to monitor their video, but the registry in itself is very helpful because that saves time from having to literally go door to door and ask if they have cameras. Slide on our community outreach. You'll see. Yes, sir.
Have you done, in any of our newsletters, have you had anything put out about registering?
I believe we've done it in the newsletters. We've certainly done it through our social media channels a multitude of times. I'll check and see, and if we haven't done it in the newsletter, we could certainly include it there as well. It's great to have the participation is infinitely helpful to us.
It'd be good if the citizen does something on it too.
Well, they may be in the room.
Two of them.
Yes, they are. So you see the animal shelter there. That's actually not a very current photo. That project has really advanced beyond that, and we're still hopeful for a July opening for that facility. A little bit, again, what we like to do in this annual report is not just, we don't intend it just to be a dog and pony show, if you will, and just show pretty pictures of neat things, but we like to include, facts and statistics in the interest of transparency. And so on this page, you'll see that there's a use of force slide that breaks down the various categories of use of force categories from 2018, along with the frequency in which force was used. And then a page on training, and on and again on the other side are the complaints that we receive. While we do pride ourselves on our work and our adherence to our core values, occasionally we do generate complaints. In 2018, formal citizen complaints were actually down 16.7% over the prior year, which is something.
Can you give
we're
me
all
an
proud of.
idea what an internally generated complaint would be?
Sure, Vice Mayor. That would be a situation where through our, here's the best example I could think of. We review every single use of force incident, every single one, from the most minor application of force to the use of deadly force. They all get reviewed. And that review starts at the supervisory intake level, and it goes all the way through the department, and I actually close those out. I read every single one of them. So occasionally we'll review a use of force that we don't feel necessarily fits within our policy, and in that case we would initiate an investigation and actually look into the circumstances and the actions that led up to that use of force, and occasionally that results in disciplinary action even inside the organization. So that's an example of of an administratively generated situation. It could also be relative to driving. We do have the body-worn cameras and things of that nature now, so we're able to detect behaviors and activities that we feel need to be investigated even outside of a citizen generating a complaint.
So it's a procedural reflection of an officer's conduct,
that's
not
right.
another officer complaining about.
That's right.
One of their
Although
conduct.
it could be another, it could come in that way as well. It could
Okay.
come in through, one officer saying, hey, I saw this, and I don't think it was right. And then as we look into it, we do that via one of those investigations.
Okay, thank you.
A little bit on our hiring and our, while I'm on this page, I really want to thank you all I realize every quarter we bring a lot of new employees in here. I appreciate you indulging that. I think it's important for you and for the public to see and get to know a little bit those folks that we're bringing into the organization. So this page talks a little bit, it provides some statistics on our current demographics, and based on, of course, what you've seen in those quarterly presentations over the last year, you'll note, just if nothing else anecdotally from what you've seen, that we've made progress in virtually all of those categories. And then we have a list of the actual folks that we've hired on the right side. It's quite a few. We hired 30 employees in 2018, and that doesn't appear to be slowing down anytime soon. Then, of course, we had some retirements. You'll notice Officer Chris Trim there on that page, Sergeant Kang, Sergeant Guy Ueda, Lieutenant Audrey Hogue, and there's a number of others that are there, along with our award winners from this past year. A little bit of information on VIPs. We talked about them earlier, so I won't belabor that. And then our Police Explorers doing some training. Our Citizens Academy, that continues to be an absolute gem of a program in my very biased opinion. We actually graduated a class last night, another class, and we'll be starting another one in May. And those classes fill as soon as we advertise them. They fill immediately. That's been a great thing. My Chiefs Advisory Board, the CAB. There's a picture of the CAB there. That's also been what I think a really good development in our community policing effort, in weaving community members into what we do at the police department. We've made real strides with them and included them in our promotion ceremonies and other events, our awards ceremonies, etc. So that's been a good thing. And of course, we did our Shaggy No Shave November campaign. That's listed there. We did respond in 2018 to the Camp Fire and other natural disasters outside of the area, and that talks a little bit about that. I do want to stop here and point out the Mobile Crisis Support Team on that page. That was a development in 2018 that's been a real important development for us. That's that team that pairs one of our police officers with a mental health clinician that we receive from Sacramento County, and they go out and they exclusively respond to calls involving people in crisis and trying to not just help them in the moment, but align them with resources that are going to help them long term. And that's been a good development. And that brings us to the end. We of course have all our social media buttons there, and this year we did include a page at the back, a memorial page for the police officers that were lost in the line of duty this past year. And that brings me to the close. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, and I appreciate being able to, again, to present the report.
Vice Mayor.
Yeah, not a question. Just give Ms. Lopez, pass along to her what an excellent job she did. That's
Will do.
Wonderful
Thank you.
brochure.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Sin.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to take another opportunity here to share you with some praise, Chief Noblett. I know this is your last one, so I think this report, I think it's a great way to, I don't say go out, but definitely, you know, presenting this and what you've accomplished. I really appreciated seeing the demographics that you did. We got a lot of, I've had a chance to meet a lot of the new officers, and I think it's a great crop of new folks. The CAB, I think your idea about that and your implementation of that idea is bearing fruit in terms of building trust and goodwill in the community. So I'm really happy about the culture that you've set in the department. So big shoes to fill. Thanks.
Councilman Detrick.
Yeah, Chief, first of all, really enjoyed the content. It's always great to see when anything related to violence is come down, and over each year continues with, even though we have the population growth, statistically we keep doing well. Obviously one crime's one too many if you're the victim, but it's an unfortunate reality of our society. And on a side note, I know that there's a young gentleman who went through the autism collaboration with the police department, John, who just finished the Boston Marathon.
He did.
You may have followed it. Phenomenal time. I think it was 3 hours and 54 minutes.
Yeah, in fact, I signed up because Captain Albright clued me into how to do it. I signed up through text messaging. You could get automatic updates on John as he was hitting milestones throughout the race. Oh, wow. So he did great. I think it was 3 hours and 40 or 50 minutes.
50, I think it was 3 hours 54 minutes.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Wow. And I mean that's like a 3:40 pace. I mean a 5:40 pace, I think.
Well, I've run with John, and not for very long.
But what's amazing is for a young man who he does not speak at all, but he's very affectionate young man to come up and always give a hug and always cheerful, and obviously his mom's done a great job helping him with autism and to be able to run at the high level he's at. In fact, most of the time, as you mentioned, what holds him back is whoever he's running with.
Yeah, and it's been me a couple of times. He's fast. I will say, if I can have just a second, I appreciate the kind words, I do, but frankly, I don't do any of this work. We've got an organization full of great people who they do the work. And as it relates to our relationship with the community that has disabilities and families with folks with disabilities, and particularly those on the spectrum, that's been Jason Jimenez, our PIO, has really driven that effort. And so much of what we do now is due to Jason's initiative and hard work. And that relationship with Fly Brave and the Fly Fit program, our internal training, we've had our staff trained on dealing with folks on the spectrum so that those encounters will be as safe as possible going forward. Those are all great developments. I mean, I can proudly say that we were literally at the cutting edge of law enforcement organizations in terms of how we deal with that group. It's
Chief,
great.
I think you're not giving yourself enough credit. You guys in the back, you guys carried the heavy load, but he gave you the opportunity to rise, and you guys have all risen together. And that's, to me, the sign of a true leader, and you've done a phenomenal job, as well as the team we've got who's behind you and those who are going to step up behind you. You've been a great role model to them, and you know, I know you still got a little time left, but
absolutely,
we're going to miss it when you're gone. But you set the stage, and you've put great people in place to lead us into the future.
Well, thank you for that.
And I was very fortunate to see you present this last year, and to see this year. I am very pleased. I think this is wonderful. You presented it really well, and I'm going to echo our Councilmember Dietrich here and say that the fact that you're crediting the team makes you a true leader, because of you, I think the department is in a better place, and because of everything that you've done for the department. I've met many of the CAB members, and they've got nothing but wonderful things to say about you and what you've done for our city and to the department. But I also want to say that the Del Webb community, and I see Ms. Bonnie is sitting back there, you're a celebrity to them there. They have an event tomorrow, and I told them I'd stop by, and they thought, okay, that's great, but is the chief coming? And the minute I said the chief is coming, I think everybody's going to show up just to get a picture with you. So I want to thank you for that, because you can't pay somebody to love the community as much as you have shown here in our city. And it really does show. So I appreciate you for everything you've done. And you're right, we're going to really miss you here. And there's going to be some big shoes that the next person is going to have to fill.
Well, again, thank you. I really did come up just to present the annual report, but thank you. I appreciate your comments very much.
So it feels like we're sending you off, but I know you're going to be around until
I still
July.
got a few months.
So I'll reserve most of my comments until when you actually have your sending off party. But thank you for the report, very informative. I'm not surprised, the numbers look good, but like everything else, we're on a pathway, on a journey, and I think you set the stage correctly to go in that direction. We'd love to see more inclusive diversity on the force, and I think that's something that you've always been committed to, and I think the team as a whole, the management team, is committed to that. So that's something that we certainly am looking forward to working on beyond the years. But more importantly, I'll see you on the river fishing.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, next item.
I think we still have some public comment. Folks signed up to speak.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry about that. We have our two speakers. First speaker is Constance Conley, and following Constance is Randy Becker.
My public comment is based on Greek emotion, and we Greeks have a lot of emotion. So my previous one was filled with emotion, not anger, and my second one is filled with emotion. Back in 2006, when we wanted to form our own police department, we couldn't get in. Members of the public didn't want to speak out of fear because we had to take on another Greek. So we were in the back, and they said, "Oh, you do it. No, you do it. Oh, no, let's get Connie to do it. She's not afraid to take on a fellow Greek, and he'll be nameless." And so I came up and I said, we need to form our own police department. We aren't getting the services that we were paying for, and we actually went to the Board of Supervisors and asked for our $50 million back. Don Napoleon almost fell off his chair, but we had the grand jury saying we could have our money back. Well, needless to say, we would have bankrupted the county, and we had a lawyer, we had everything. But we said, no, we were going to be good regional partners. We just want our own police department. And we got it. And I have to say that we envisioned a department that would service the community because we believed in community policing. In fact, Pat wrote a whole paper on community policing. He wasn't even on the council then, but that's a true leader. They lead even before they're elected. So for that, I thank you. And in that paper, he wrote what we would have envisioned in a police chief and in a police department. And I have to say, we have come full circle, and that's exactly what we have. So you, sir, Chief Brian Noblet, are an officer and a gentleman, and even though we have butt heads a little bit, you know, because I can fire off an email or two that I shouldn't have sent, but, you know, that impulse control. And you have always been an officer and a gentleman, and I can honestly say from the bottom of my heart that you will be leaving us better than you found us, and for that we will be forever grateful, and it will be your legacy that will live on throughout the history of Elk Grove, that you are one of our finest. And I thank you, sir.
All right, next speaker is Randy Becker.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, Chief, as I privately congratulate you, I publicly congratulate you tonight. And as Connie said, you are going to be well remembered once you're gone. The one thing I wanted to come up here after the dust settled, it seemed like it was getting pretty dusty in the back. The one thing that wasn't talked about that has been talked about previously, and as Connie touched on the service we were getting out of the county, I wanted to be very proactive about vision, because sometimes things take time. And I know that some months ago there was some type of study being done about the amount of room we needed and the amount of room the police department needed. And that wasn't talked about tonight. So I want to talk about it, because a turnkey is going to take probably 3 to 5 years in a vision from start to finish. And I don't want to be waiting 5 years for discussion to where we're being underserved. I know there's been times where there's been discussion that the number of sworn officers, you know, everybody's fighting for space, fighting time, it's all interconnected. And I know that I would imagine this report's probably going to be coming up soon. Seems like the calendar's been ticking off. But I don't want to wait too long. And I think it should be our vision for the rest of the year to make sure that we come up with that vision of what that building or our buildings need. So when we're talking 3 years from now or 5 years from now, we're actually turning the lights on and not shuffling papers. So I'd like that to be part of this discussion, because without that, we're not going to be able to grow by 3, 5, 7, 9, whatever that number might be. And therefore, we'll be stagnated and be back to where we once were. And I don't think that's where we need to go. So I look forward to that information, Jason, and a conversation moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Becker.
Jason, do you have a projection on the space study?
It's getting close to being completed. I think it should be back in the next couple months.
Guess probably by midsummer, we should have it here at the council meeting for a review.
Yeah, I think before that. I think, I don't know, Bob, do you have a better timeline than that? I would say by
No, I think you're about right. That sounds about right.
next couple
Midsummer.
months.
Summer, yeah.
Okay. There you go, Randy.
Okay. Thank you. Seeing no additional speakers, I want to close public comment, and I think let's just move to the next item.
Take us on to item 10.3, which is consider a resolution adopting mission, vision, goals, and priority projects for fiscal years 2019-20 and 2020-2021.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Christopher Jordan. This is a follow-up from your retreat back in February, formal adoption of the mission, vision, goals, and priority projects. Through tonight's presentation, which I'll try to make brief, there's a couple key terms that I'll be mentioning and referring to. They're up here on the screen: mission statement, vision statement, and goals. Just in quick summary, and you can see it from the screen or in the staff report that you received. From a mission statement perspective, this is the overall aims and values of the organization, what we're striving for. The vision statement, it's a future-based statement. It's giving inspiration and direction to the organization where we're headed. And goals, direction setters, the ideal future. Essentially, they're the how we see ourselves implementing the vision or trying to achieve the vision going forward. And these end up getting implemented through what we've historically referred to as strategic initiatives, or what we're proposing this evening is calling as priority projects. At the retreat, we talked a bit about these, and staff's recommendation at the time was the formal establishment of a city as an organization mission statement, preparing a revised, refined vision, reworking our goals to be more specific and easy to relate to so that you can digest them, you can get a better sense of them in one glance. There's not a whole lot of extra text to review. And then again, that changing of these strategic imperatives to priority projects. As you recall from the updates we were doing quarterly the last couple of years on those, 20, 25 pages worth of reporting we were doing on those because of how voluminous they were and some repetition that was occurring between them. So we've restructured them, and we'll talk about those here in a minute. So after the conversation at the retreat, we've done some refinements on the language. Some occurred there at the meeting and some staff worked on after, but the proposed mission statement for your consideration: provide exceptional services that enhance the quality of life for our residents and promote a thriving economy in an efficient and cost-effective manner. On the vision side, Elk Grove prioritizes superior quality of life for all that builds upon the community's diversity and heritage through safe, welcoming, and connected neighborhoods with a variety of residential, educational, and employment choices and amenities that create a sense of place. On the goals, we restructured these into 4 themes, which talk about the vibrant, sustainable economy and diverse business and amenities, resilient and safe community, performance of the organization, and city infrastructure. I won't go through these in a ton of detail, but within each of these we have a series of about 4 or so bullet points that help define and give character to that theme. So for example, in the vibrant community and sustainable economy theme, we talk about business attraction, retention, and expansion, amenities including dining, entertainment, hospitality, and cultural arts. We talk about public and private development that's of high quality and attractive, creating a sense, contributing to a sense of place. And we talk about neighborhoods of varying densities and characteristics. In safe and resilient community, this is as it describes about safety primarily. So we talk about community safety, public safety through prevention, intervention, and enforcement, effective emergency operations, and a sustainable community and protection of the natural environment. In performance of the organization, this is where the fiscal health items occur. We talk about new ideas and innovation and delivery of services. We talk about responsive and courteous customer service, diverse workforce, and so on. And then on the infrastructure side, this deals with the efficiency and effectiveness of our maintenance and operations, improvements and enhancements to our roadways, bicycle, pedestrian routes, and transit system, infrastructure that supports business attraction and expansion, and planning for future transportation technologies and innovations. On the project side, there are 27 in total. We've organized these into 5 project areas, and in the attachment you have that goes along with the resolution, we've given and you've seen this before at the retreat, we've organized these in a way and help relate them back to the goals so you can see the connection that's occurring there. And as we talked about at the retreat, there may be projects which implement 2 or more of the goals or relate back to 2 or more of the goal areas. So we think doing this way will help to provide better clarity and understanding of what we're trying to accomplish. For the projects themselves, we're able to organize these into 5 areas. I won't go through all of them in excruciating detail. Those areas are civic amenities, transportation, community development, safety, and operations. I won't go through all of them. I certainly don't have them all up on the slide. They are in the packet, so if you have questions, we can go through them. But some of the highlights here, we have, of course, the completion of the Animal Shelter, Aquatic Center, and Community Center. Camera Road, of course, is on here, updating the ITS master plan, preparing the mobility resiliency plan, completing the bus rapid transit implementation study. We have Railroad Street, the Old Town Special Planning Area updates. We talked at the retreat about the Camera Road Corridor Urban Design Study, staffing plan for police, continuing to implement that. The reserve policy, which I believe you'll actually have as your next agenda item. We have diversity and the inclusion strategy in here, and finally the Smart City Initiative. So next steps, with your adoption of the resolution, this will all move into the budget document, which you'll be getting next month, and then we'll begin reporting on these beginning in the July timeframe. Concludes my presentation. Happy to answer questions if you have them.
Any questions? No questions.
Great. Thank
Perfectly
you.
clear. Thank you. This time I want to open for public comment. Got a couple speakers signed up. First is Kathy Engel. Following Kathy Engel is Lynn Wheat. Come on down, please. Kathy's not here? Okay. All right, Lynn Wheat.
I want to thank staff for an excellent report. I thought that the retreat I attended, I thought it was well done, well planned and organized, and a useful time. But I do have a concern, and I've brought this before you before, is I'd like us to look at how we deal with our road maintenance. And when we talk about a vibrant, safe community, and we have potholes in our roads, and we just have slurry, and we're not making policies or setting a direction where we're going to put more money into those existing roads, concerns me. So the problem that hung out in this report to me was we are just not going to see potholes as a priority. So I have fractured my hand falling, and of course I take full responsibility. I wasn't paying any attention to where I was walking. Along Elk Grove Florin Road and Elk Grove Boulevard, there are potholes in the crosswalk, and I can see this as a problem. And I've brought this before you, and I know Public Works does the absolute best they can with the monies that they have, but I'd ask for you to please consider making this a policy that we're going to address some of these older roads, because I do see that as a priority as far as safety and the vibrancy of our city. When you're driving down and the roads are falling apart and crumbling, it doesn't really make it look like we're thriving. Thank you.
Seeing that there are no additional speakers, I want to close public comment. Council deliberation and direction.
Mayor, so I wanted to add a couple of things. Actually, I think Ms. Wheat has a good point. One of the at the STA meeting, Councilman or Vice Mayor Hume, you'll recall. I mean, the one common theme we've been hearing, or one of them, has been road maintenance for every single city and jurisdiction in the county. Has been the issue. I mean, it's not just Elk Grove, right? Everybody is contending with this. So I was looking at this and I thought, I think it might be novel or for us to add that in, maintaining facilities and under transportation as a priority project. And so I'd request something to that effect. And then secondly, I'd also like to request, because it isn't necessarily a city-driven, but I talked about it with Jason about this, it's necessarily city-driven, but I would like to add in here supporting RT and extending light rail, because I do believe we should put out there that we are supportive of transit in our city. We're not going to widen the freeways, beyond that lane on I-5 anymore, or 99, and it's a mess out there today. So I just want to make sure that folks know we're serious about trying to be able to move people throughout the region in an efficient manner, and transit is going to be our only way in the future. Would you guys be okay with that?
Members?
I see nodding.
I think we're going down into the weeds a little bit, but I mean, I think a lot of this is already covered the way it's generally worded. That, all transportation items are related.
Well, I guess I just specifically asked if we could include supporting RT. I don't see a specific, other than the bus rapid transit, I don't see any explicit mention of transit in here.
Well, it's a transportation system. I mean,
right, which is similar but not transit. I just think it's good for folks to know, because they're not reading our minds. They're not coming to these meetings, so at a glance, they should know we're serious about these things. We're serious about maintaining what we have, and we're serious about transit. That's all.
I mean, we could go back and wordsmith this, whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah, just adding. It's just adding a line. It says supporting RT in its effort to extend transit.
And I'm in agreement with Councilman Detrick. I think the idea here is to provide a broad guideline. And I'm not sure if it's going to be effective to speak about specific details. However, if the council wills it and have an interest in codifying this, I'm fine with that as well.
So I would just add in there that it's fine if we make it a priority for us, but we're not in control.
Agreed.
Of the extension of the light rail. However, the other point that you brought up and that Ms. Wheat brought up, I think we could put something in there that talks about maintenance of existing assets or whatever, however we want to put it, but just that we do, to the extent we can and we can allocate the funds for it, that we place a high priority on keeping things up.
Right.
Plus, at the end of the day, our actions are what really speak. Doesn't matter what's
That's
on
it.
paper, it's
That's
our
it.
actions.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but I mean, I can't tell you how many people keep asking me about what we're doing for transit.
Did they say they didn't read it in here,
What's that?
in our goals?
Well, it's not. I mean, if they did, it wouldn't be in our goals,
Can we
But-
just take one of the ones that we already have and add to it to include what Councilmember Soon is saying, but then also add kind of what Ms. Wheat was mentioning earlier about?
Yeah, I think it'd just be two line items, right? One under transportation, so supporting, RT in its effort to extend transit or light rail, and then city operations, just to add a line item in there that says maintaining assets or facilities. That's it.
I'm good with that.
That's fine with me.
Thank you.
Yeah? All right.
Just
Good. Anything else?
One more thing. I think those are fine additions. I want maybe have Bob address the comment from Ms. Weed about the road maintenance, because we agree that that should be a priority, whether or not it's articulated here. It is a priority, and Public Works has been really making a lot of efforts over the last year plus to kind of reprioritize some things and streamline and become more efficient to free up more money to be spent on roadway repair and maintenance projects. So, Bob, I don't know if you have just a 30
Well,
seconds.
I would say I think next council meeting, we're going to present the 5-year CIP, and as part of that, we're going to talk a little bit about pavement management. I think we're in a much better position maybe than people realize. I don't think we've solved the problem, but with all the work that's gone on, you're going to see an increased amount of money pretty much every year throughout up until the 5th year, where we're going to have millions of dollars more in pavement management than we do now. So all of the efficiencies we've been gaining, all of the savings, we're pushing into asset management and into maintaining the facilities in a good state of repair. What I've told my maintenance staff is I want everything to look great. Now, how do we get there?
Well, with the addition of revenue streams are helping too.
SB1 has helped a lot, absolutely, I think, but we've generated, that's $3 million that with the council's blessing, we put directly into pavement, all of it, 100% of it. And so, but in addition to that, we've been saving significant amount of money in the changes we're making, and that's going all back directly into pavement and signs and pavement markings and everything. So it's a concerted effort. It's their one mission statement out there is make everything look great, and so they're working toward that. And I think you're going to see that in the numbers that we're putting into pavement management. You're going to see that in the 5-year CIP next council meeting.
And Bob, I would assume between your staff and the chief's staff and obviously the general public, when you find out about situations that are dangerous, that you guys are going out there and fixing potholes whenever we know about it.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of I can't remember how many requests for service, thousands of requests for service every year. Just like Ms. Wheat, I just wrote down exactly what she said. So I'll be sending an email out to to my O&M staff saying, go take a look at that. I've got a report of a pothole. And we get those kind of requests and reports all the time. And we respond very quickly.
You know, it's very good to hear. I just wanted to add on real quick, you know, the conversations at SACOG and at back in DC that are going on right now is the revenues of gas tax declining. And nationally, they're expecting that to begin very soon because of the efficiencies of vehicles and such. So it's good we're gaining this now because it's not going to last forever, the effects of SB1 and such. I mean, it's a national conversation that's going on, meeting with Feinstein's office, meeting with the different committees. Everybody's debating what are we going to do about funding road improvements and maintenance in the future. So
Yeah, it's not just our paving, it's our it's bridges, everything.
Yeah.
It's all the infrastructure, and it's not only the stuff you see, it's the stuff below ground too that you don't see.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, the whole United States is crumbling.
Yeah, and gas tax isn't going to be sustainable for us. So thanks.
Okay. All right, CJ, you got everything? Okay, awesome. I'll take a motion with the suggested changes.
Motion, move.
Second.
Got a motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention? Next item.
Take us on to item 10.4, which is consider a resolution amending the fund balance reserve policy.
Okay, this might be where I need some help here. Slideshow.
Sorry, my computer blew up tonight, so. Have fun.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. Brad Kane, I'm your Director of Finance and Administrative Services. As was mentioned in the last item, the council retreat in February was mentioned, and the fund balance reserve policy was also a discussion item at the February retreat. And we floated a few ideas in front of you and said that we would be coming back recommending some changes, and so that's what this is in front of you tonight. So the reserve policy does some significant things. It provides flexibility to the city, it provides stability, and it maintains. So it's an important financial aspect to be able to prepare the city to deliver, to navigate through unknowns and be able to continue to maintain services. The existing policy was adopted in 2009, and the policy states that the city's goal is to have a reserve of between 15 and 20%. The city has been able to use its reserve while still maintaining way above the target of 15 to 20%, has been able to invest in various acquisitions or priorities for the council, and there's a few that are listed here, whether it's the diversity audit, 100-acre acquisition of the 100 acres, the sewer lift station, using the reserve for specific one-time opportunities is an important resource that if you don't have an adequate reserve, you're not able to do that. And so you don't have the flexibility to take advantage of opportunities when they come up. Historically, the city has had a very healthy reserve, so even though our policy is between 15 and 20%, you can see that in most years it's actually exceeded 30%. And this is even after we've been able to invest in those opportunities that you saw some examples on in the earlier slide. With that high level of existing reserves and a reserve policy that is 15 to 20%, we're also this is an opportune time to look at, consider our reserve policy because of revenue neutrality. And the reason why this is an opportune time is currently the city receives 30% of its share of property tax. The total share of the city is about 5.8 cents for every property tax dollar that is paid. But because of our revenue neutrality agreement, the county continues to get a large portion, currently 70% of our 5.8 cents. That revenue neutrality, we're entering the phase where it's going to start decreasing to the county and the benefit increasing to the city. So we'll be seeing 10% increment reductions in the revenue neutrality payments to the county. And so that's a good thing. It means more resources for the city to accomplish those things that are important, whether it's services or infrastructure or whatever it is. But it also puts the city in a position where there's another level of risk of if there's a downturn in the economy, the revenues from property tax could also be hit. And so maybe this is a good time to consider looking at our reserve policy. So what's proposed to you tonight is to increase the reserve for economic uncertainty level from the 15 to 20% to a 20 to 25% deal. This definitely provides the city with, I should stay closer to this mic, the flexibility, gives the stability, gives the city tools to navigate through economic uncertainty. And whether that's big hits to revenue or unforeseen expenditures or natural disasters or state budget difficulties that do happen from time to time, and the state likes to look to local governments as a solution, it helps put us in a position to better navigate those if those challenges come up. Because of the benefit that we've seen in using the reserve for one-time important priorities or projects or acquisitions like we saw in that earlier slide, it also seems to make sense to set aside a portion of the reserve specifically for that and have an opportunity reserve between 0 and 5% so that that could be the place that council can look to when there is an opportunity or a need that was not anticipated. And that way you have something to look towards while still protecting your reserve for economic uncertainty for times that are uncertain. Currently, as you saw in the earlier slide, the city has had a reserve that actually has exceeded 30% in most years. And what is proposed in the policy is that reserves that are in exceeding 30%, that would be allocated to two sources. Half of that would be allocated to capital reserves, to be gap funding for bringing a capital project forward, and there's a lot of flexibility on what that capital project may be, and also the other 50% to economic development, in particular to the incentive programs that would be accessed when we are using an economic incentive program for full-time employment in the city. So the city has existing reserves that are able to make this increase in the target without any undue stress or an added reductions or cuts to expenditures or planned budgets. So it's kind of a good time to do that, and it also strengthens the city's ability to navigate challenges in the future and provides means so that the city is able to respond to opportunities. So the proposal is to increase the reserve for economic uncertainty to have a target range of 20 to 25%, create an opportunity reserve, and then the reserves that exceed the 30% would go to capital reserves and economic development. And that's the proposal before you tonight.
Are there any questions? Vice Mayor.
Yeah, just on that last part, the reserves that exceed the 30%, On the history timeline that you showed, more often than not, we were running 35, 36% reserves. So you're saying those would be drawn down to 30% every year, and the 50% to capital reserves and 50% to economic development?
Right, so let's say that we have a year of 36%. We had a significant fund balance contribution. So we would have our full target of 25% for reserve for economic uncertainty, 5% for the opportunity fund, and then that 6% that would exceed the 30%, then siphon that off and send 3% to the capital reserve program and 3% to the economic development.
And how does the capital reserves program get expended?
Some of the past things that it's been used for is the sewer lift station. It's helped with the Old Town Plaza acquisitions and also streetscape improvements. So it's been a variety of projects that for the most part, the majority of funding is coming from somewhere else, but there's additional funding needed to make that project be doable in the near term.
And so in the past, in those projects that you highlighted, we've drawn those funds out of the economic uncertainty reserves.
So,
correct?
Well, you've drawn it out of the general fund reserve. You only had a portion reserved for economic uncertainty, that 15 to 20% range. So that amount above 20% was undesignated portion of the reserve. And so in the past, what you've done is, oh, we have these projects or these acquisitions we want to do. We want to use our reserve. And so you were able to draw that down and spend that money for a project or an acquisition. Or in particular on the sewer lift station, it was a designation from the general fund at that time. It was quite a few millions of dollars, and it was moved to the capital reserve fund. And it sat there for a time while the sewer lift got ready to be spent. So it was set aside in the capital reserve fund, and then it's been spent down as that project's been delivered.
Okay, so to a certain extent, then it's a semantical situation where there's still going to be 36% in reserves. It's just going to be designated.
It's the places that they're going to be living in.
Okay.
So you'll have your general fund, which would have the reserve for economic uncertainty and the opportunity reserve, and then you also have then money in a different fund, which is called the capital reserve fund. And also, one of the things I didn't mention is this wouldn't be in making that transfer of anything over 30% to those other two funds. It would be in context of, okay, what's our next year budget look like? Is there really capacity for us to bring it back down to 30, or is there something that might be needed?
Okay, any other questions? No questions, thank you. Right, this time I want to open public comment. I have one speaker signed up to speak, Ms. Lynn Wheat.
Waive the 10 o'clock rule.
We don't need to. Start
Oh,
before.
that's right, okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm still on the roads and fixing those potholes, and I appreciate that we're gonna have more money for that, and I will call you on more of them, because Lujan, the ones they fixed, they're potholes again, so it came out. But, so this opportunity reserve, I think that we ought to look at if our former Public Works Director was correct in what he was saying when he brought to you the information on how we were getting behind on our road maintenance. I think we're still like possibly, and I could be totally wrong, like 5 million still behind on that, because what he talked about was if we have this pot of money and we're using it now, we can maintain the roads at the level that we have them, but this is what our future is going to look like if we don't begin to address them. So if we're going to develop this new opportunity reserve, I'd like to see in there that maybe we could identify our roads and address our roads. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. There are no additional speakers, so I'm going to close public comment and entertain deliberation and direction. Council members?
I'll move staff's
Right, got a motion.
recommendation. Move
Got a
staff's
second?
recommendation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? All right, I think we're done. Let's adjourn at 10:04.